Chapter 8:10. Boom. The celestial rainbow purgatory spear and the time wheel slammed into the blood-sucking grand array formed by the dark red insect tide, causing the aura of time to splatter out. However, the insect tide grand array only shook a little but didn't break. The black altar of forefathers' library whimpered even more miserably, and the insects that came out of the blood lake and the heart of the blood lake also became denser. The giant did not care about Ning Cheng's attack. After he muttered to himself, he spoke to Ning Cheng. "I know, you are called Ning Cheng. If you can't save me, I'll send you away." With that, the giant grabbed at the void again and tore open another crack in the void. After tearing open space, the giant no longer paid any attention to Ning Cheng and continued to rush towards the blood lake. Ning Cheng could clearly see that the spatial crack opened by the giant this time was much smaller compared to the last time. Ning Cheng didn't leave, nor did he care about the spatial crack opened by the giant. The celestial rainbow purgatory spear came to a standstill over the blood-sucking array formed by the dark red insects, and the frequency of Ning Cheng's movements grew more and more urgent. The time wheel blasted into the blood-sucking insect array one after another, and the blood bridge connecting the giant to the blood lake also came to a halt at this moment. Ning Cheng cast Sunset's Twilight and the Time Wheel Spirit technique at the same time. He let the blood-sucking insect array come to a standstill in the blink of an eye. At the same time, he kept blasting out time wheels. This time, he didn't conjure a sunset. All he wanted was for time to stop. Even if it was only for a breath of time, it would be enough. No matter how powerful the blood-sucking bug array was, it was just something that could be controlled. Once the laws of time came to a stop, he would be able to blast open this tenacious blood-sucking array. Bang bang. One after another, the time wheels slammed into the blood-sucking insect array, causing the blood-sucking insect array, which had remained still for less than a breath, to loosen up for the first time. The moment the blood-sucking insect array loosened, the celestial rainbow purgatory spear, which had been suspended above the blood-sucking insect array for a long time, slammed down. The whimpers coming from the altar of forefathers' library turned sharp, but even so, it couldn't stop Ning Cheng's celestial rainbow purgatory spear. The celestial rainbow purgatory spear turned into a spear intent that traversed space and shot down without leaving a trace. With that kind of power, even if a planet stood in front of the celestial rainbow purgatory spear, it would most likely turn into nothingness. Catcha! The blood-sucking insect array, which was clearly composed of insects, gave out a cracking sound under Ning Cheng's celestial rainbow purgatory spear. The blood-sucking insect array loosened up completely at this moment. Almost at the same time as the blood-sucking insect array loosened, several time wheels blasted out. The time wheel rolled over the countless insects, and the previously tough insects disappeared without a trace. Without the obstruction of the array formation, these dark red insects couldn't resist Ning Cheng's time wheels for even a moment. Since Ning Cheng had already blown up the insect array, even if the scattered insects rushed up, it would only lead to their deaths. The moment the blood-sucking insect array was blown apart by Ning Cheng, the blood bridge that flowed from the giant to the blood lake abruptly broke apart. The giant could not believe it as it once again turned its head towards Ning Cheng. Not only did Ning Cheng not leave, but he also stopped his blood from flowing into the blood river. Without the blood-sucking insect array, the altar of forefathers' library's control over the giant immediately weakened. At least the giant would not continue to crazily grab his heart. At this moment, the three chains on the giant's body suddenly began to shrink, as if they were going to pull the giant back into the abyss. Ning Cheng's expression changed. If the giant got pulled back again, he wouldn't be able to save this giant at all. He didn't know where this giant came from, and this giant wasn't even locked in this interface. He must not let the giant get pulled away. Ning Cheng raised his hand and shot out a few time wheels towards the altar of forefathers' library. When the time wheels hit the altar of forefathers' library, it only produced a gray light before the aura of time disappeared without a trace. His time wheels couldn't do anything to this altar of forefathers' library. You can't destroy that altar. The giant tried to forcibly stop his body from being pulled back by the three iron chains. But the pulling force was too strong, and the giant's body made cracking sounds. He only managed to hold on for a moment before the three chains continued to pull him back. Even without the giant's reminder, Ning Cheng's time wheels hit the altar of Forefathers' library. He understood that he couldn't destroy the altar of Forefathers' library with his current strength. He quickly brought out the celestial rainbow purgatory spear and condensed all his celestial essence to attack one of the chains. Only by breaking these three chains would he be able to save the giant. Boom! The violent celestial essence force exploded on the chain, but Ning Cheng soon felt disappointed. Even after he attacked with all his strength, the chain couldn't even leave a mark. Ning Cheng knew that it wouldn't make any sense for him to smash the three chains with the celestial rainbow purgatory spear. The grade of these three chains was not something his celestial rainbow purgatory spear could break, nor could he break them with his cultivation. Seeing the giant getting pulled further and further away, Ning Cheng grew more and more anxious. If he couldn't save the giant this time, he might even end up harming the giant. Ning Cheng, thank you for coming to save me. I'm leaving. No matter if we can meet again in the future or not, you will always be my second friend. The giant felt Ning Cheng's disappointment and anxiety and tried to persuade him instead. The distant altar of Forefathers' library's screams grew sharper and sharper. The louder the altar's screams, the greater the pulling force on the giant. Ning Cheng felt angry, but he also knew that he couldn't blow up the altar of Forefathers' library. Ning Cheng had never felt so small before. Even against the ninth prince, when he was at an absolute disadvantage, he didn't feel this way. This feeling was too uncomfortable, and it made him unable to breathe. I'm too weak. Ning Cheng clenched his fists and watched the giant's figure about to be pulled into the darkness. He felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. Seeing that the giant was about to disappear in front of him, Ning Cheng suddenly remembered that the giant's eye was still on him. He quickly took out the jade box. The moment he took out the jade box containing the eye, the giant also sensed the jade box in Ning Cheng's hand and roared even more violently. Exerting all his strength, he even stopped himself from being dragged down. His two empty eyes stared at Ning Cheng's hand, as if he could still see it. The skin and bones all over his body bulged up, forcibly stopping the pull of the chains. Ning Cheng was holding his eye. It had to be his eye. Ning Cheng saw the giant's expression and felt a sense of sadness in his heart. He rushed forward and wanted to hand the eye to the giant. But when he rushed to the giant's side, he suddenly remembered something, the dagger that nailed the giant. He hadn't refined the dagger, not because he didn't want to refine it, but because he wanted to give it to the giant. He didn't think that he wouldn't be able to save the giant, so it wasn't until this moment that he remembered the dagger. Ning Cheng quickly took out the dagger, rushed behind the giant, raised the dagger in his hand and slashed down. A tearing murderous aura came crashing down, and even the void in front of the dagger seemed to have a trace of it. A shallow gap appeared on the chain, but Ning Cheng's heart was filled with regret. He regretted that he did not refine this dagger. If he had refined this dagger, he would have definitely been able to cut off these three chains. But now it was too late. At his speed, he feared that the giant would be pulled into the void before he could even cut off one of the chains. Sure enough, after Ning Cheng's dagger slashed down, the altar of Forefathers' library in the distance started to emit a trace of black aura, and the shrill cries became even more violent. The moment Ning Cheng took out the dagger, the giant turned his head towards the dagger in Ning Cheng's hand, and a hint of surprise appeared on his face. Ning Cheng, give me the dagger. Ning Cheng did not hesitate to put the dagger in the giant's hand, and the dagger seemed to suddenly grow bigger in the giant's hand. The giant held the dagger and chopped down on the chain that locked him. Chi! The space around him made a chi-chi fluctuation, and a dark spatial crack appeared in front of the dagger. A violent killing intent invaded, and Ning Cheng, who was standing a little further away, felt a chill. Kacha! The chain that locked the giant's wrist made a kacha sound, and like a piece of tofu, it was cut off by the giant. The giant bent down and chopped down twice in succession. Kacha, kacha. With two more kacha sounds, the giant cut off the three chains himself. After the three chains were cut off by the giant, they were instantly dragged into the void and disappeared without a trace. After cutting off the chain that locked him, the giant let out a violent roar, grabbed the dagger, and rushed towards the dark altar of Forefathers' library. The altar seemed to feel that something was wrong, and with a shrill scream, retreated into the dark void like the chain, and disappeared without a trace. Seemingly knowing that he couldn't catch the altar, the giant sighed, and the violent rage gradually subsided. He then reached out and grabbed the heart in the blood lake. Not knowing if it was because Ning Cheng killed the insects that escaped from the heart had become very dim, and even the sound of its heartbeat had turned flat. Ning Cheng also put away the everlasting Blue Thunder City. With the giant controlling his heart, the heart's beating Dao charm would no longer hurt Shen Mengyan. The insects disappeared, the altar retreated, and the giant grabbed the heart. Ning Cheng put away the everlasting Blue Thunder City, and Shen Mengyan also came out. When she saw the giant grab the heart, she exclaimed, "Big guy, there are a lot of insects in that heart." The giant shook his head. "After Ning Cheng saved me, these insects turned into nothingness. Only after the altar locked me in place could the altar's Dao charm allow them to survive. Now that I'm free, and without the altar, these insects will disappear." After saying that, the giant put the heart in the blood lake again. Ning Cheng and Shen Mengyan watched in surprise as the blood lake quickly faded, and the blood lake also started to get shallower. At the same time, the heart also slowly regained some of its previous vitality. Although its heartbeat still felt weak, it no longer looked like it was on the verge of death. Ning Cheng handed the jade box containing the eye to the giant. "The last time I felt your aura was the same as the aura of this eye. I thought you must have lost it. After I went out, I deliberately found it for you." The giant took the jade box and opened it. Then, he took out the eye and put it into his empty eye socket. The eye seemed to have a life of its own. As soon as it fell into the giant's eye socket, it quickly merged with the giant, and no one could see any abnormalities. The giant still didn't speak. Instead, he grabbed the heart in the blood lake, which had regained some of its vitality, and pressed it against his chest. The giant's heart quickly healed, and soon, the giant hole in his chest disappeared. At this time, even Shen Mengyan could feel the giant's aura growing stronger. Only then did the giant hand the dagger to Ning Cheng. "Thank you. You saved me. You're much better than that Yu Yuechen." Chapter 8:11. Ning Cheng pushed the dagger back to the giant again. "Senior, I originally planned to give this dagger to you. This dagger nailed your eyes, and I believe that one day, you can use it to nail your enemy's eyes." "What? Did you just say Yu Yuechen?" Before the giant could speak, Shen Mengyan, who had already walked to Ning Cheng's side, spoke up with excitement. Seeing Shen Mengyan's excitement, the giant immediately replied, "Yes, many years ago, a man named Yu Yuechen also came here by accident. He told me that as long as I saved him, he would definitely come to save me in the future. But later, he didn't come." Ning Cheng naturally knew who Yu Yuechen was. He immediately recalled what the giant said when he asked the giant to save him. "Many years ago, I also helped a person in the same way, but he never came back to help me." At that time, Ning Cheng cursed this unscrupulous fellow in his heart. Fortunately, the giant had a good heart and helped him. Ning Cheng feared that Shen Mengyan would feel sad and was about to speak when Shen Mengyan spoke up in front of him. "Senior, maybe he was delayed by something. I think he will come back in the future if he has the chance." The giant shook his head. "When I saved him, I knew that he wouldn't come. I have a feeling when I look at people, that is, I can tell if this person is lying or not. Yu Yuechen should be the kind of person who doesn't mean what he says. If he didn't have something to delay him, he wouldn't have come to save me. When he secretly took a drop of my blood from the blood pool, he probably thought that I didn't see it." Shen Mengyan lowered her head. She really wanted to ask Yu Yuechen about the reason he came here, but the giant's words left her with no face to ask. She couldn't understand why the giant would still save Yu Yuechen if he said that he knew that Yu Yuechen wouldn't come to save him. The giant obviously wasn't as slow as his body. On the contrary, he spoke very clearly, and his intelligence wasn't low. He could see that Shen Mengyan and Yu Yuechen knew each other, and he could also see what Shen Mengyan was thinking. He spoke up calmly, "Even if I had to do it again, I would still save him." After saying that, the giant looked up at the endless void. It seemed to be answering Shen Mengyan's words, but it also seemed to be talking to himself. "She told me not to treat a life based on my own impression. It's unfair to them. At any time, in any place, there are always good people. She wouldn't lie to me, and neither would she lie to me. Speaking until here, the giant retracted his gaze and looked at Ning Cheng. Thank you. It was you and she who strengthened my faith. You are also my friend. My name is Pan Qian, and I come from the Great Change Realm. From now on we are friends. You can call me Pan Qian. He only thought about what she said about being unfair to others, but he didn't seem to think about whether it was fair to him that others didn't come here to repay him. Great Change Realm? What is this place? Ning Cheng asked in doubt. He knew that there were many things that he did not understand. From the looks of it, Pan Qian came from a very high-level interface. If he wanted to ask him, he might even be able to inquire about Song Wei's whereabouts. Pan Qian said to Ning Cheng, "Give me some materials first, I will refine a few sets of clothes." Ning Cheng then remembered that Pan Qian's clothes were also in tatters. He quickly took out a ring and handed it to Pan Qian. "Pan Qian, you can take the things inside. I still have a lot." The ring contained 5 star veins, a pile of permanent essence pills, and a pile of artifact crafting materials. Pan Qian didn't stand on ceremony with Ning Cheng. When the ring reached his hand, the pile of materials quickly transformed into several sets of clothes. His artifact crafting method was completely different from Ning Cheng's. Ning Cheng didn't even feel any spatial fluctuations before he finished refining. After putting on the clothes, Pan Qian said to Ning Cheng, "I've been trapped in this interface for many years. I know that the laws here are incomplete, and it should be a very low-level interface. The Great Change Realm I mentioned is one of the 5 highest-level positional planes, and it's the first positional plane we can reach. The other 4 places are the Absolute Beginning Realm, Grand Beginning Realm, Grand Essence Realm, and Grand Ultimate Realm. I'll tell you about these later. This place is a huge interface array formation, which locks me in between the 2 realms. Now that I've broken free, and I've also cut off 3 of the ceiling boundary chains, this place will soon collapse." Ning Cheng, who wanted to ask more questions, felt speechless after hearing this. Knowing that this place was about to collapse, why didn't he leave quickly? Instead, he had the energy to refine clothes and answer my questions. At this moment, he finally understood how thick Pan Qian's nerves were. Ning Cheng rushed to the side of the sifting fairy grass and pulled out the dozen stalks of sifting fairy grass before saying, "Aunt Yen, let's get out." Pan Qian nodded, "Follow me." After saying that, Pan Qian chose a direction and strode out. Although Shen Meng Yen felt very complicated and had a lot of questions to ask, she also knew that this wasn't the right time. The 3 of them hadn't walked far when a burst of spatial collapse came from behind them. Pan Qian moved quickly, covering hundreds of meters with each step. Coupled with his fast speed, the 3 of them quickly walked out of the deepest part of the Altar of Forefathers Library and once again arrived at the Thousand Mound Forest. After the Ning Cheng trio came out, the first person they saw was Manjuran. Standing next to Manjuran were Yi Mingyuan, the masked man, and the green-robed cultivator. Ning Cheng didn't see the skinny bamboo-like fellow, but he didn't know if Qiao Jierui and Zhang Kong Tianji worked together to kill him. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept over Manjuran and understood that Manjuran's cultivation had already recovered. Manjuran's cold gaze swept past Ning Cheng and fell on Pan Qian. After looking at Pan Qian up and down for a while, he asked, "Yuechen, is he the giant sealed by the Altar of Forefathers Library?" Although he didn't care about Ning Cheng, his mind had always been focused on Ning Cheng. Once Ning Cheng brought out that terrifying black arrow, he would immediately escape. He couldn't let the black arrow's killing intent lock onto him. He knew that once Ning Cheng brought out that arrow, Ning Cheng wouldn't be able to control it. As long as he waited for the arrow to drain Ning Cheng, he would come back. At that time, Ning Cheng would be at his mercy. The masked man bowed and said, "Yes, 9th Prince, it's this person. His blood is a lake of blood and contains the purest ancient bloodline. The drop of blood I brought to the 9th Prince came from him." Manjuran laughed and nodded. "Yes, since he came out, he must have brought that lake of ancient blood essence with him. Yuechen, you did a good job and made a great contribution. It's my honor to work for the 9th Prince, but I dare not claim any credit." The masked man bowed and said, Manjuran looked at Pan Qian and said, In addition to refining the mysterious yellow starland, I also came here for you. If you're willing to join me, I can spare your life. I just want 2/3 of your essence blood." Pan Qian ignored Manjurin's words. Instead, his gaze fell on Yu Yuechen and spoke up calmly. "Yu Yuechen, I saved you back then, and you said that you would come back to help me. I didn't expect you to come back to help me, but why did you bring people to rob me of my essence blood?" When she heard Manjurin call the masked man Yuechen, Shen Mengyan kept staring at the masked man. She hadn't noticed it before, but now she thought of a terrible consequence. Hearing Pan Qian call out Yu Yuechen directly, Shen Mengyan finally couldn't hold back her emotions and screamed, "Yu Yuechen, you." After she said the word, she became even more sure that this masked man, who hid his aura, was the one she was looking for. Yu Yuechen, her husband. The masked man took off his mask and stared at Shen Mengyan coldly. "You bitch, slut. I must have been blind to have married a bitch like you." But he didn't put the mask into his ring. Instead, he held it in his hand. Shen Mengyan's face turned as pale as a sheet of white paper. She didn't expect that the person she worked so hard to find would turn out like this. Following that 9th prince, not only did he ignore her, but he also insulted her. If he still had a little bit of her in his heart, he would have spoken up when Manjurin only faced her and Ning Cheng. If it weren't for Ning Cheng's means, that 9th prince would have insulted her in front of everyone. Even if she didn't say anything, she, Shen Mengyan, had been imprisoned in Yu Clan's Corner's water prison for so many years, yet he didn't even bother to look at her. Pan Qian had saved him, but not only did he not repay the kindness, but he even brought his master here to take Pan Qian's essence blood. Why didn't she notice any of this when she was with him? Shen Mengyan could no longer hold back the despair in her heart. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, she felt her cultivation starting to dissipate. She hated herself for being blind. After he secretly advanced to the Eternal Realm, not only did he not return to Yu Clan's Corner, but he also left alone. She should have known that this person was selfish. How much effort did Yu Clan's Corner spend to nurture him? When he could have helped Yu Clan's Corner, he didn't even want to do anything. Instead, he turned around and left in silence. But she didn't think of any of this. She only thought of him saying that he would come back and take her away in the future. Yu Yuechen's cold gaze swept over Ning Cheng and glanced at Shen Mengyan with disdain. "Did you have a good time with your adulterer these days? You like that kind of stuff, don't you?" Shen Mengyan didn't even have the strength to refute. Celestial essence overflowed from her dantian and she wanted to self-destruct. Shen Mengyan was Yu Qing's mother, so Ning Cheng naturally couldn't watch Shen Mengyan self-destruct in front of him. He raised his hand and patted Shen Mengyan's back. The celestial essence overflowing from Shen Mengyan's body immediately calmed down. "Aunt Yen, it's not worth it to self-destruct for this kind of person." Ning Cheng sighed and tried to persuade her. If Shen Mengyan wanted to continue self-destructing, he wouldn't be able to stop it. He couldn't be with Shen Mengyan all the time. Shen Mengyan looked at Yu Yuechen in a daze and spoke up after a while. "You're right. It's not worth it to commit suicide for this kind of person." She immediately thought of Yu Qing. Yu Qing was no longer here, so what relationship did she have with Yu Yuechen? But now that the two of them had nothing to do with each other, she couldn't even figure it out. Thinking of Yu Qing, Shen Mengyan sighed. Chapter 8:12. Is this your woman? Manjurin interjected at this moment. "It doesn't matter how 9th Prince deals with me. I don't want such a woman." Yu Yuechen spoke with a respectful tone. He didn't even look at Shen Mengyan. "He really is a scum." Ning Cheng spoke with a sarcastic tone. Manjurin didn't care about Ning Cheng's sarcasm towards Yu Yuechen. Instead, he remained vigilant towards Ning Cheng's actions while asking the giant, "What do you think?" "Ning Cheng, do you think this person deserves to die?" Pan Qian didn't answer Manjurin but asked Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng stared at Manjurin and spoke to Pan Qian. "If I had the ability to kill this fellow, I would have killed him a long time ago." "Okay, you're my brother. I think you're right." Pan Qian raised his hand and slapped Manjurin. With just this one move, the surrounding space seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Manjurin felt horrified in his heart. He didn't expect giants to be so terrifying. With this kind of power, even a few Manjuran wouldn't be a match for this giant. Boom boom boom. Manjuran's golden whip rolled up layers of space. But in front of Pan Qian's slap, it felt like child's play and directly turned into powder. The giant didn't use any spiritual sense, just its terrifying power was enough to completely suppress the surrounding space. Manjuran couldn't even breathe, let alone move. Almost at the same time, the mask in Yuechen's hand turned into a ray of light. The reason why he was holding the mask in his hand was because there was a talisman hidden in the mask. This talisman carried with it a Dao rune of escape light. Clearly, it was a top-notch escape talisman. Unfortunately, he had also underestimated Pan Qian's strength. Pan Qian's power directly crushed this side of the space, making it crackle. His escape talisman couldn't be activated at all. Manjuran saw Yuechen activate the talisman in the mask the moment the giant made his move. He finally understood and roared, "Yuechen, you cunning villain!" He finally realized that Yuechen didn't really want to offer the ancient blood essence in the blood lake to him, Manjuran. Instead, he used Manjuran to die, and then took all of Manjuran's things for himself. Manjuran didn't know the giant's power, but Yuechen already knew it. Therefore, he knew that Manjuran would only be courting death if he tried to attack the giant. Therefore, he had long prepared for Manjuran's death. However, even Yuechen didn't expect that the giant would be rescued. Therefore, when the giant attacked Manjuran, Yuechen's first thought was to escape. Bang! Ning Cheng had already shattered Manjuran's body once. But this time, under Pan Qian's slap, it turned into minced meat once again. The giant disappeared. With. Pan Qian looked at the ray of light and spoke to Ning Cheng with some regret. His life essence escaped. With my current strength, I can't chase him down. Ning Cheng also couldn't help but sigh. This ninth prince truly had a lot of means to escape. Not only did he have an essence spirit substitute, but now that his corporeal body had completely collapsed, he could still take away his essence spirit through an escape light. Seeing Pan Qian's gaze sweeping over, Yuechen's face turned pale. He wanted to use Manjuran to fight against the shackled giant and then reap the benefits. What he wanted was the things Manjuran left behind in the 9 Emperor Peak. It's just that he didn't expect that the giant would break free. His wishful thinking would come to nothing. Therefore, when Pan Qian attacked, he planned to use the Breaking Boundary Talisman to escape. It's just that Pan Qian's strength was too great. With Pan Qian in control of this space, he couldn't activate the Breaking Boundary Talisman. Shen Mengyan suddenly knelt on the ground. "Senior Pan, please let him go." "You're still pleading for him?" Pan Qian felt puzzled. Shen Mengyan then looked at Ning Cheng, and Ning Cheng understood what she meant. Shen Mengyan didn't want to plead for Yuechen, but she couldn't watch Yuechen die in front of her. If that was the case, perhaps she would always feel guilty in the depths of her heart. This guilt wasn't towards Yuechen, but towards the dead Yuqing. Seeing Ning Cheng not speaking, Pan Qian sighed. He raised his hand and grabbed a spatial crack, grabbed Yuechen and threw him in. "For the sake of my brother Ning Cheng, I'll spare your dog life." After throwing Yuechen away, Pan Qian looked at Yi Mingyuan and the green-robed man, who were suppressed by him. He then grabbed the two and threw them into the spatial crack. Ning Cheng secretly sighed at Pan Qian's kindness. If it were him, he would have killed these two fellows. After easily dealing with the 9th prince and the others, Pan Qian said to Ning Cheng, "The 5 Grand Realms are also called the Good Fortune 5 Grand Realms. The reason for this name is that each of the 5 realms has a gateway leading to good fortune. Unfortunately, after a melee of powerhouses, the Grand Beginning Realm, Grand Beginning Realm, Grand Essence Realm and Grand Ultimate Realm of the 5 Grand Realms all collapsed and split into many parts. Only the Grand Change Realm remained intact." "Pan Qian, are you saying that the gates of good fortune of the other 4 great realms are broken? If we want to enter the gates of good fortune, we can only go to the Great Change Realm?" Ning Cheng was not a stranger to good fortune. His mysterious yellow bead was a good fortune treasure, and Song Wei had also helped him through the gate of good fortune. Pan Qian shook his head. "You don't understand what I mean. I said that there is a gate that leads to good fortune, not that this gate exists or is material. Only in this place would one have the opportunity to comprehend the gate of good fortune. Only by comprehending the gate of good fortune would one be able to touch the gate and push it open to enter. Apart from the Great Change Realm, the other great realms had collapsed and their rules were incomplete. Therefore, even if you comprehend it to the extreme, you won't be able to sense and touch that door. Ning Cheng clenched his fists. He had to go to the Grand Change Realm. He felt sure that Song Wei had gone to one of the Grand Worlds, most likely one of the 5 Grand Worlds. Seeing that Ning Cheng seemed to be lost in thought, Pan Qian spoke up, "Ning Cheng, don't think too much about it. Since ancient times, there was only the legend of good fortune. This legend was very old and many people knew about it. However, no one has ever been able to open the gate of good fortune and enter it. If you have the chance in the future, don't stay in this low-level Grand World. The laws here are very incomplete. You can go to the 5 Grand Worlds. If one day I can find the way to the Grand Change Realm, I will pick you up." Ning Cheng gave an "n" sound and asked a moment later, "Pan Qian, can you tell me what kind of world the 5 Grand Worlds are?" Pan Qian remained silent for a long time before speaking. "I have always been by Shi-Er's side and rarely go out. However, I know that the Grand Change Realm is a vast place filled with spiritual auras and Tao charms. Any place is a treasure land of spiritual beings, a beautiful paradise." Shi-Er had told him all of this, but he really didn't know what was so good about the Grand Change Realm. Speaking of this, Pan Qian thought for a while before continuing. "Shi-Er once told me that the 5 Grand Worlds have a saying, 'For have one.' I heard that the powerful spirit techniques of these realms are, Grand Beginning has spirit runes, Grand Beginning has spirit light, Grand Essence spirit thunder, Grand Ultimate has yin and yang, and Grand Change is formless." Pan Qian told Ning Cheng almost everything he knew, but all his knowledge came from Shi. Ning Cheng had never heard of any of these spirit techniques, and he knew that Pan Qian should only know these. Ning Cheng didn't continue to ask Pan Qian about the good fortune 5 Grand Worlds. Instead, he said, "Elder brother Pan Qian, the mysterious yellow starland's vitality is weak now. Elder brother, why don't you come with me to my mysterious yellow celestial river?" Pan Qian shook his head. "I want to go back. I want to find the Grand Change Realm. I promised Shi-Er that I would go back." Pan Qian had mentioned Shi-Er several times, so Ning Cheng guessed that Shi-Er must have a very high position in Pan Qian's heart. Therefore, he said, "If I can go to the Grand Change Realm in the future, I will definitely look for you." "Okay, that's it. I'm leaving," Pan Qian said to Ning Cheng and Shen Mengyan before tearing through space to leave. Shen Mengyan suddenly spoke up, "Senior Pan Qian, I would like to ask you to take me out of here." Pan Qian looked at Shen Mengyan in confusion. "You want to go with me?" After saying that, he subconsciously looked at Ning Cheng again. He felt that Shen Mengyan was a beautiful woman, and that Yu Yuechen wasn't worthy of Shen Mengyan at all. Only brother Ning Cheng was worthy of Shen Mengyan. Now that Yu Yuechen was gone, it was only right for brother Ning Cheng and Shen Mengyan to stay together. Shen Mengyan spoke up firmly, "Yes, senior, please help me." Ning Cheng didn't speak. He understood Shen Mengyan's thoughts. Shen Mengyan didn't want people to gossip about her. Even her former husband would gossip about her. It would be strange if others didn't gossip about her when they saw her together. Moreover, this place had already broken Shen Mengyan's heart. She didn't want to stay in this sad place anymore. Her daughter died in this place, her husband betrayed her, and even her senior apprentice sister was plotted against. It turned out that her only purpose for living was gone. What courage and reason did she have to stay in this place? Seeing that Ning Cheng didn't object, Pan Qian nodded. "Okay, I'll take you away. My path is dangerous, but if you're not afraid, you can come with me. Also, don't call me senior in the future. Just call me elder brother Pan Qian." "Yes, elder brother Pan Qian." After Shen Mengyan called out this sentence, her entire person turned strange. It felt as if she was no longer the Shen Mengyan of the past. Pan Qian then said to Ning Cheng, "Brother Ning Cheng, take care of yourself after I leave." Ning Cheng was just about to speak when Shen Mengyan also spoke up, "Junior apprentice brother Ning, thank you for taking care of me. Mengyan will be leaving now. See you again if fate wills it." Hearing Shen Mengyan call him junior apprentice brother Ning, Ning Cheng froze for a moment and swallowed the words Aunt Yen. He knew that Shen Mengyan had completely forgotten the past at this moment. Ning Cheng sighed. Perhaps this was Shen Mengyan's rebirth. It was just like reincarnation. Although she hadn't experienced the reincarnation of her body, her spirit had reincarnated once. Elder brother Pan Qian, senior apprentice Sister Mengyan, take care. Ning Cheng bowed. Pan Qian raised his hand and tore open space again. Taking Shen Mengyan with him, he stepped into the vast and boundless void. After a while, the torn space returned to its original state. Ning Cheng stood alone in the withered thousand-mound forest and looked at the vast and boundless sky. A feeling rose in his heart that was hard to describe. Chapter 8:13. Ning Cheng arrived at the Sacred Light City alone. The Sacred Light City still looked magnificent and huge. Outside the Sacred Light City, Ning Cheng could not feel any restriction or array formation, but after Ning Cheng entered the Sacred Light City, he immediately felt layers upon layers of entrapment arrays. He secretly rejoiced that he did not choose to meet Manjurin in Sacred Light City. Otherwise, even if he brought out the 5-colored star splitter arrow and injured the 9th prince, Shen Mengyan might not have been able to escape from Sacred Light City. Not to mention Shen Mengyan, even Chuan Xinlo and the others would find their hands and feet tied under the layers of restrictions around Sacred Light City. As for setting up a one-way teleportation in Holy Light City, it was impossible. Sacred Light City was like a dead city. Apart from the fact that the buildings were more complete than Moi City, there was almost no difference between it and the dilapidated Moi City. Moreover, the buildings in Holy Light City were not in the form of streets at all. Instead, they were made up of altars. Ning Cheng understood that Manjurin had deliberately built this place to refine the mysterious Yellow Starland. As for why Manjurin wanted to refine the mysterious Yellow Starland and even turn this place into a dead zone, Ning Cheng couldn't figure it out. After entering the Sacred Light City, Ning Cheng did not see anyone here. The people who stayed here must have left as well. Along the way, Ning Cheng destroyed all the entrapment arrays in the Sacred Light City and soon arrived at the heart of the Sacred Light City. There was a 9-emperor peak here, which should be the hub where Manjurin refined the entire mysterious Yellow Starland. Ning Cheng only knew that a powerhouse could refine a starland. As for how to refine it, he had never come into contact with it. Regardless of whether he would do such a thing or not, Ning Cheng had to go to this 9th emperor's peak to have a look. The restrictions around the 9 Emperor's Peak were densely packed. Ning Cheng was just in case there were still people in this place. As such, he constantly dropped down array flags on the way up the 9 Emperor's Peak. The 9th Emperor's Peak was a lot higher than the Sacred Light City. As such, Ning Cheng had to be very careful, coupled with throwing out array flags along the way. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he finally arrived at the top of the 9th Emperor's Peak. At the top of the 9th Emperor's Peak, Ning Cheng unexpectedly saw a woman. Everyone had left, but there was still a woman chained here. What made Ning Cheng puzzled was that he knew this woman. It was the silver-haired woman with a dignified appearance whom Manjurin had brought to Moi City. However, at this time, she was chained to the altar at the top of the 9th Emperor Peak. She looked very strange. When this silver-haired woman saw Ning Cheng coming over, her eyes also revealed some doubts. However, she did not speak. Ning Cheng remembered that this woman, along with Yu Yuechen and another seductive woman, had besieged Yi Jiufeng. It stood to reason that she was one of 9th Prince Manjurin's people, so how could she be locked up? There was an empty space in the middle of the altar in front of the woman, as if something had been taken away. Ning Cheng walked over and carefully examined it. Only then was he convinced that someone had taken away something from this place. Who took the things here? Ning Cheng looked back at the silver-haired woman and asked. The silver-haired woman didn't answer Ning Cheng's words. Instead, she asked, "Did you finally join Manjurin?" "That Manjurin doesn't have enough face for me to join him. Moreover, I'm the one asking you now, not you asking me." Ning Cheng spoke with a sarcastic tone. The silver-haired woman looked at Ning Cheng in doubt before speaking. Yes, there was a life force plate here, but it was taken away by Ku Sheng. Who is Ku Sheng? What is the life force plate? Ning Cheng asked. The silver-haired woman replied, "You've seen it before. It's that thin cultivator." He came here and said that the ninth prince wanted him to take away the life force plate. The life force plate is a top-grade treasure that can absorb the life force of any living creature or even a planet. Ning Cheng felt shocked when he heard this. He finally understood why the mysterious yellow starland's life force had dissipated and was about to disappear. It turned out to be the life force plate. Such a heaven-defying thing that could absorb all life force. Just how powerful was it? From the looks of it, Mandarin most likely wanted to refine the mysterious yellow starland on the surface, but in fact, he wanted to extract all the life force in this place. From this, one could imagine that everyone who stayed in the mysterious yellow starland should have already died. With all their life force sucked away, it would be strange if they could still survive. This Mandarin's actions were truly vicious and insidious. Ku Sheng took away the life force plate, but he didn't kill you? Ning Cheng looked at the silver-haired woman with some suspicion. The silver-haired woman froze for a moment after hearing Ning Cheng's words. But she immediately understood and spoke with a trembling voice. You mean you killed Mandarin, and Ku Sheng came here to steal the life force plate? If Ku Sheng didn't come here to steal the life force plate and really came here on orders, why would he kill her? Only if the other party killed Mandarin and Ku Sheng betrayed the ninth prince, would he kill her when he stole the life force plate. It seems that this silver-haired woman didn't know about Mandarin being slapped away by Pan Qian. The silver-haired woman didn't wait for Ning Cheng to answer. She understood the general situation and quickly said, "Please let me go. I will repay you. Mandarin caught me, and what he wants is my essence blood. According to reason, Mandarin is our common enemy. It's not difficult to save you, and I believe you. But you haven't told me why Ku Sheng didn't kill you. Instead, people would know that he took away the life force plate." Ning Cheng spoke with a calm voice. The silver-haired woman dragged the chain and stood up. She looked at Ning Cheng and said, "Because he doesn't dare to kill me. As long as he kills me, he will die without a doubt. Not to mention him, even Mandarin wouldn't dare to kill me now. Besides, he took away the life force plate, which is easy to guess. He can't hide it even if he wanted to." This silver-haired woman was only in the eternal realm, and her cultivation was sealed. After seeing the situation clearly, Ning Cheng nodded. "I can let you go, but you have to answer a few questions for me. First, what is the origin of Mandarin? Second, where does he come from?" The silver-haired woman replied without hesitation. "His father is a powerhouse with more than 100 sons. Mandarin ranks 9th. As for his origin, you wouldn't know it even if I told you. The place he came from is called the Grand Essence Sea." Ning Cheng murmured, "Grand Essence Sea? Is it a place in the Grand Essence Realm? Is it a sea dragon king?" "Huh, you know about the Grand Essence Realm?" the silver-haired woman asked in surprise. Ning Cheng didn't answer the silver-haired woman's question. Instead, he grabbed a handful of array flags and threw them out. Then he brought out the celestial rainbow purgatory spear and shot at the chain that locked the silver-haired woman. This silver-haired woman was trapped by a trapping array. As for the chain that locked Pan Qian, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. With just a single spear strike, Ning Cheng had broken the chain. With Ning Cheng unlocking the trapping array and breaking the chain, the silver-haired woman instantly regained her freedom. She raised her hand to her glabella and then spat out a mouthful of filthy blood. With this mouthful of filthy blood, the silver-haired woman's aura grew stronger. Her body trembled slightly, and the remaining chain around her turned into slag and fell to the ground. "Thank you for saving me. I'm going back now. This is for you." After restoring her cultivation, the silver-haired woman sighed, and a talisman appeared in her hand out of thin air. At the same time, she took out a ring and handed it to Ning Cheng. "You're also from the Grand Essence Realm. Can this talisman break through the interface and go back?" Ning Cheng didn't take the ring from the silver-haired woman. Instead, he looked at the talisman in the silver-haired woman's hand and asked in doubt. The silver-haired woman said, "I'm from the Grand Essence Realm, and this talisman can break through the interface. However, this talisman can't take me back. It can only bring me closer to home. The Grand Essence Realm and this place are two different positional planes. Ordinary talismans can't break through it." Ning Cheng took in a deep breath and said, I don't want your ring. Can you give me one of these talismans? After seeing Manjuran's group and talking to Pan Qian, Ning Cheng understood that even if his cultivation reached the peak of the eternal realm one day, or even reached Tao-confirming realm like Chuan Xinlo, he would still be an ant. In this vast and boundless universe, he would still be an ant. If he wanted to become stronger, he had to go to the 5 grand realms. He couldn't go to the Grand Change realm. But now that the silver-haired woman said that she had a talisman close to the Grand Essence realm, if he could get one, he might have some hope in the future. The silver-haired woman looked at Ning Cheng in doubt. The ring she gave him contained many good things, enough to benefit Ning Cheng a lot. But she didn't expect Ning Cheng to not want the ring and only wanted a talisman. In fact, this talisman was indeed more precious than the ring. But it was useless to Ning Cheng. She thought about it and took out a talisman and handed it to Ning Cheng. I only have 3 of these talismans. Since I promised you, then I'll give you one. Goodbye. After saying that, the talisman in the silver-haired woman's hand turned into a ray of light that tore through space, wrapped up the silver-haired woman, and disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng looked at the talisman in his hand that exuded Tao charm. He then carefully took out a jade box and put away the talisman. This talisman was much more advanced than the breaking boundary talisman he had obtained from Duan Gantai. After carefully checking the sacred light city and making sure that no one was around, Ning Cheng used the time wheel to blast the sacred light city to the ground before leaving the mysterious yellow starland. Chapter 8:14. Ning Cheng had just returned to stately River Star when he met Yi Jiofeng waiting outside. Senior apprentice Sister 9 Phoenix, why are you here? Ning Cheng put away the starry sky wheel and asked in doubt. When Yi Jiofeng saw Ning Cheng, her face immediately showed a hint of relief. Senior apprentice Brother Ning, I knew you would be fine. That's why I've been waiting for you here after I've finished some things. Ning Cheng quickly spoke up, Senior apprentice Sister 9 Phoenix, please come to my mysterious yellow sect to talk. Staying outside is not the way to treat guests. Yi Jiofeng shook her head, Senior apprentice Brother Ning, I came here to say goodbye to you. I will leave after I finish speaking here. I will not enter the mysterious yellow sect. In fact, I was prepared to wait for another month. After a month, if Senior apprentice Brother Ning still hasn't returned, then I would also be planning to leave. Goodbye? Ning Cheng looked at Yi Jiofeng in doubt. He couldn't understand what Yi Jiofeng meant. Since Yi Jiofeng wanted to return to spirit heaven, there was no need for her to say goodbye to him. Although he and Yi Jiofeng had a good relationship, it wasn't to the point where he had to come over and say hello to her over such a trivial matter. Moreover, he had to wait for a few months. Yi Jiofeng understood Ning Cheng's doubts and gave out a sigh. I plan to leave this side of the starry sky. I've already handed over the grand spirit heaven starry sky to others. Not only me, but Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor, Xiao Jierui, and Zhang Kengtianji also left this place. If I am not wrong, it should be very difficult for them to come back. Including myself, once I leave, it will be very difficult for me to return. Is Heavenly Emperor Leveled Heart willing to leave Grand Culmination's starry sky? I thought that he would not give up until he killed me. Ning Cheng spoke with a smile. Yi Jiofeng didn't ridicule Chuan Xinlo this time. Instead, she spoke up with a lonely tone. Compared to the vast law world, even if you dominate this place for countless eras, what can you do? In the past, we hid here and fought with each other, but we were just frogs in a well. Now that we know there are higher planes of laws, we don't even need to prove our Tao to go there. Who would still be willing to stay here? The 5 grand realms? Ning Cheng immediately understood. Who would want to stay here and enjoy their retirement if they knew about the 5 grand realms? Among those who could cultivate to the level of Chuan Xinlo and Yi Jiofeng, which one of them wasn't a wise person with a brilliant mind? This kind of person would definitely not stay here and wait for death after knowing that there was a stronger plane. 5 grand realms? Yi Jiofeng repeated in doubt before saying, I don't know. Take a look at this. After Yi Jiofeng finished, she took out a crystal stone and put it in Ning Cheng's hand. Ning Cheng held the crystal and immediately felt a higher grade of essence spirit qi. Even the pure permanent essence pills couldn't compare to it. he looked at Yi Jiufeng in shock and asked, "What kind of crystal is this?" Ning Cheng thought that if he used this crystal stone for cultivation, he would be able to reach the late-stage eternal realm in a much shorter time. At the same time, he wouldn't need to spend a lot of time in seclusion. These are the crystals used for cultivation in their place. These things are as common as ordinary starry sky crystals in our place. Even the various Dao fruits are not rare in their world. Yi Jiufeng spoke with a sigh. She thought back to the time when the few of them went to the ancient Shadow Temple together. Chuan Xinlo had obtained a Dao fruit, and even succeeded in reaching Dao-confirming realm with this Dao fruit. His achievements far surpassed the three of them. "You mean the place where the 9th prince is?" Ning Cheng returned the crystal stone to Yi Jiufeng and asked, "Take this crystal stone, I still have a few more." Yi Jiufeng pushed the crystal stone back to Ning Cheng and said, "Yes. The person who gave us the crystal stone and traded with us is called Ku Sheng. Chuan Xinlo severely injured Ku Sheng, and to save his life, he traded a lot of starry sky spirit grasses with us. At the same time, it also showed us that we were just frogs in a well and had shallow knowledge." Ning Cheng felt even more puzzled. Wasn't Chuan Xinlo fighting Yi Mingyuan? Yi Jiufeng replied, "I'm not as good as Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor. He pretended to be seriously injured and escaped during his fight with Yi Mingyuan. In fact, he didn't leave at all but hid outside the mysterious Yellow Starland." Zhang Kong Tianji and Qiao Jierwei, on seeing Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor escape, quickly rushed out of the mysterious Yellow Starland. Since the three of them left, I naturally wouldn't stay behind. Ku Sheng chased after them, but he didn't expect to get seriously injured by Leveled Heart Heavenly Emperor, who hid outside the mysterious Yellow Starland. Ku Sheng wanted to escape after getting seriously injured, but the four of us trapped him in the starry sky. He held an escape talisman in his hand and wanted to trade with us. He said that if we didn't trade, he would immediately break through the boundary and escape. "Did he guide you to a high-level interface and even gave you a top-grade breaking boundary talisman?" Ning Cheng asked. Yi Jiufeng nodded. "Yes, he took out a top-grade breaking boundary talisman and said that he could use this talisman to get close to the positional plane they are in. In fact, I still don't understand why he didn't use this talisman to escape but chose to trade with us. Was he afraid of that 9th prince?" Ning Cheng didn't explain. He already knew why Ku Sheng wanted to trade with Yi Jiufeng and the others. Ku Sheng stayed with the 9th prince for the same purpose as Yu Yuechen, that life force plate. Since Ku Sheng stayed here with a purpose, he naturally wouldn't escape. It was laughable that the 9th prince thought that he had subdued these people, but he didn't expect that they all fancied his things. So, if Chuan Xinlo and the others left, wouldn't you have no way to escape alone? Ning Cheng thought that there was only one talisman, and since Yi Jiufeng didn't leave with Chuan Xinlo and the others, she wouldn't be able to reach the Grand Essence Realm even if she wanted to. Yi Jiufeng smiled. "I obtained an opening Heavenchild talisman in the ancient Shadow Temple. I didn't know what it was at first, but I know it now. My talisman is much better than Ku Sheng's talisman. I'm confident that I can find the way there. Then I wish Senior Apprentice Sister 9 Phoenix a smooth journey." Ning Cheng understood that Yi Jiufeng had made up her mind to leave. Yi Jiufeng spoke up, "Senior Apprentice Brother Ning, I came here to tell you about this. But if you want to go together, you can come with me. That 9th prince has an unusual origin. Even if we escape, he won't give up in the future." Ning Cheng smiled. "I won't leave for the time being. But Senior Apprentice Sister 9 Phoenix doesn't have to worry about it. That 9th prince's corporeal body has already collapsed. It would take him many years to recover. I suspect that 9th prince has already left this positional plane. I don't know where he is hiding to heal." What? Yi Jiufeng truly felt shocked this time. She wanted to leave to pursue strength, but at the same time, she also felt a little worried about the 9th prince finding her. But Ning Cheng said that he had severely injured the 9th prince to the point that even his corporeal body had disappeared. It was simply too outrageous. Yi Jiufeng naturally thought that Ning Cheng had injured the 9th prince severely. She didn't even know that Pan Qian existed. "Is this true?" Yi Jiufeng repeated the question in disbelief. Ning Cheng spoke with certainty. "It's true. If you don't believe me, you can go to Sacred Light City and have a look." I razed the entire sacred light city to the ground. Many thanks, Senior Apprentice Brother Ning. This time, I can finally feel at ease leaving spirit heaven. Yi Jiofeng's face lit up with joy as she spoke about leaving this side of the universe. Ning Qing watched Yi Jiofeng leave and returned to stately river stars-covered Snow City with some disappointment. All the people he knew, whether they were enemies or friends, had left one by one. Although Ning Qing knew that if he stayed here, he could only reach Dao confirming at most. But he couldn't leave yet. Even if he wanted to leave, he had to take Luofei and Rulin with him. Moreover, he still had a few things to do. One was to go to the ancient Shadow Temple, and the other was to go into seclusion to study array formations. He had to become an array Dao master and then go to the place where Yan Ji teleported away. Time flew by, and in a blink of an eye, 3 years had passed since Ning Qing returned to stately River Star. During these 3 years, apart from cultivation, Ning Qing studied array formations and discussed the Tao of alchemy with Zhang Caihe. His cultivation also stabilized at the peak early stage eternal realm, only a step away from the middle stage eternal realm. But because of the lack of top-grade starry sky spirit grasses, his attainment in the Tao of alchemy remained stagnant, and he couldn't verify a bunch of theories. As for the array Dao master, Ning Qing knew that he needed time to accumulate. Ji Lufei occasionally came out to meet with Ning Qing for a few days, but she spent most of her time in seclusion. Ning Ruolin's cultivation was too low, so she spent all her time on cultivation. As for Ning Ruoqing, she still remained in seclusion. Ning Ruoqing's seclusion required too much starry sky essence spirit qi, so Ning Qing placed 10 star veins under her seclusion cave. But what puzzled Ning Qing was that Duan Gantai didn't come to find him. It stood to reason that Duan Gantai, who had suffered such a huge loss, should have gone crazy and come to settle accounts with him. Ning Qing had stayed in stately River Star for a few years, but he hadn't even seen Duan Gantai's shadow. It was as if this fellow had disappeared. After 3 years of consolidation, Ning Qing understood that his cultivation had already reached this point, and it would be difficult for him to take another step forward. He was different from others. Maybe other cultivators, as long as they accumulated enough time in seclusion, would eventually break through. But for Ning Qing, he couldn't wait that long. He didn't have that much time to accumulate enough time for cultivation. The fact that the 9th prince hadn't been killed left a hidden danger in his heart. If that fellow came to culmination heaven one day, no one here could stop him. Seeing that Ning Ruoqing showed no signs of waking up from her seclusion, Ning Qing said goodbye to Zhang Caihe again and prepared to enter the ancient Shadow Temple alone. The ancient Shadow Temple had gray toot-toot in it, and it was also in stately River Star. Ning Qing wouldn't leave this place with peace of mind if he didn't figure it out. Ning Cheng's array formation restrictions had long since sealed the ancient Shadow Temple. Even if it wasn't far from covered Snow City, no one could enter it except for Ning Qing. Ning Qing entered the ancient Shadow Temple once again. Just like before, it was still cold and gloomy. The black poisonous mist layered on top of each other, but the murderous aura here had weakened a lot compared to the last time. When Ning Qing first came here, the poisonous mist didn't affect him at all. Now that his cultivation and body forging had improved by a few levels, the poisonous mist couldn't affect him at all. Ning Qing soon arrived outside the Pentagonal Hall. After he escaped from this place, he had sealed it up. But now that he came here again, he found that the seal still remained, as if it hadn't been touched. Chapter 8:15. Ning Qing opened the seal and entered the Pentagonal Hall. The Pentagonal Hall did not look any different from when he left it. In the middle of the hall was a big dark hole, and below the hole was a pitch-black public square. Other than the occasional invasion of some Yin winds, Ning Qing did not see any other abnormalities. After waiting for a while and making sure that nothing had changed, Ning Qing turned around and sealed the entrance once again, before jumping down from the middle of the hall. Ning Cheng's twin wings of the heavenly clouds had long since undergone nirvana, allowing his speed and teleportation capabilities to increase by several times compared to the past. Previously, he could always escape even if he could not beat them, so he naturally did not have to worry about it now. Moreover, Ning Qing suspected that this fellow below couldn't even rush out of the pentagonal hall of the ancient Shadow Temple. A sinister wind wreaked havoc in the plaza, and it was more than 10,000 times stronger than the one above. As a late-stage starry sky body cultivator, Ning Cheng did not fear these nether winds. But just in case, he still brought out the everlasting blue thunder fort. The paper door in front of the plaza that had the words Hell's Gate written on it was blown by the chilly wind, and it was still rattling loudly. Ning Cheng sucked in a deep breath, as he was secretly on guard, as he slowly walked over. Several violent gusts of wind finally converged together and swept over with a whimpering sound. The nether wind immediately slammed into Ning Cheng's everlasting blue thunder fort, causing the blue thunder fort's thunder light to overflow in all directions. The violent nether wind, under the impact of the thunder light, quickly began to dissipate. These violent nether winds, which could easily tear an eternal-level cultivator into pieces, posed no threat to Ning Cheng's everlasting blue thunder fort. At this moment, Ning Cheng truly realized his own progress. Initially, his everlasting blue thunder fort could also easily block these nether winds. However, after these nether winds swept over the everlasting blue thunder fort, he still felt a little uncomfortable. He had a feeling that his primordial spirit was about to leave his body. But now, the effect on him could be said to be minimal. Ning Cheng pushed open the paper door and saw the dark yellow spring pond once again. The two doors on the opposite side of the yellow spring pond still had the words life and death written on them. Ning Cheng had already learnt from Yi Jiufeng and the others that one would end up dead after entering these two doors. Although he believed that if Chuan Xinluo could leave, then he could also leave. However, he didn't want to go inside right now. His main purpose in coming here was to find Grey Toot Toot, and also to see what kind of place the ancient Shadow Temple was. Ning Cheng directly used the everlasting blue thunder fort's protection and jumped into the yellow spring pond. The cold inside the yellow spring pond was different from ordinary ice. It had a cold aura that could strip away one's essence spirit. Fortunately, after advancing to the eternal realm, Ning Cheng's essence spirit had become several times more stable compared to when he was in the life and death realm. Therefore, although the cold aura that stripped away his essence spirit still had some effect on him, it wasn't much. The everlasting blue thunder city broke through the black and gloomy waters of the yellow spring pond and sank much faster than before. In just a short time, Ning Cheng reached the bottom of the yellow spring pond. His everlasting blue thunder fort did not compress much like the last time because of the yellow spring pond, which stripped away one's essence. Stepping on the dark red stone slabs of the yellow spring pond, countless mournful cries rang out around him. These voices were illusory and ethereal. Even if Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness grew more than 10 times stronger than before, he still couldn't pinpoint where these voices came from. Ning Cheng walked all the way to the edge of the blood river from the bottom of the yellow spring pond. The pale white stone arch bridge at the edge of the blood river still looked the same as before, without any changes at all. The blood river still roiled under the bridge. The 5 scribbled words First Bridge of Coping on the stone steel at the head of the bridge looked a bit blurry due to a dark red mist. Ning Cheng stopped next to the stone steel of the First Bridge of Coping. Unlike the last time, he didn't feel Grey Toot Toot's aura this time. Ning Cheng walked to the middle of the Bridge of Coping but didn't see Grey Toot Toot, nor did he see the black stone man blocking the way. It seemed that after the last one he had destroyed, there were no more such nether soldiers here. A violent black nether wind suddenly swept over and rushed towards Ning Cheng as if it was alive. Boom! The nether wind slammed into the everlasting blue thunder city, and the thunder light exploded again. However, the everlasting blue thunder city's thunder light directly twisted the nether wind into nothingness. Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness felt a slight chill, but he didn't feel anything wrong. This made Ning Cheng feel relieved. After his sea of consciousness advanced to the eternal realm, even Chuan Xinluo couldn't compare to him. After the everlasting blue thunder city blocked the black nether wind, 7 or 8 more violent nether winds swept over. A whimpering sound penetrated the everlasting blue thunder city and tried to squeeze into Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness. Ning Cheng turned furious. He immediately brought out the celestial rainbow purgatory spear and rushed forward. At the same time, the everlasting blue thunder city once again stretched out and shot out a thicker and denser thunder light. When he was in the life and death realm, he could only protect himself when attacked by this nether wind. But now, he was no longer a life and death cultivator who could only protect himself. The thunder light bombarded the black and violent nether wind, and the mournful whimpering sound grew even more intense. Coupled with the powerful spear intent from Ning Cheng's celestial rainbow purgatory spear, even the 7 or 8 violent nether winds dissipated under Ning Cheng's bombardment. Ning Cheng sped up and arrived at the opposite side of the stone arch bridge in a blink of an eye. A hollow voice emerged, "You killed my nether soldiers and stole my things. I didn't come looking for you, yet you dared to come to my territory, courting death." As soon as Ning Cheng heard this voice, he realized that this was the fellow who chased after him last time. Instead, he felt relieved. If this fellow truly had the confidence to kill him in seconds, he probably wouldn't have spoken so much nonsense. Clenching the celestial rainbow purgatory spear, Ning Cheng stepped out of the first bridge of coping and snorted, "Don't play tricks in front of me. When you chased after me, I said that I would come back and repay you tenfold. Now that I'm back, use whatever means you have. Otherwise, I will turn this place into nothingness." After Ning Cheng finished speaking, he raised his hand and shot out 2 time wheels. The time wheels rolled up bursts of Tao charm of time and swept out with a gray light. Everything in the way of the time wheels turned into nothingness. Under the faint gray light of the time wheels, Ning Cheng could see the scene on the other side of the bridge of coping without using his spiritual consciousness. It was a land of rubble, mixed with some uneven black mounds, with pale bones and dark ash everywhere. As the time wheels swept through this rugged place, everything in front of him instantly turned into a flat river, without even the slightest protrusion. A skeleton-like black-robed man appeared in the range of Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness. Seeing Ning Cheng's time wheels sweep through this place, his withered gray eyes filled with disbelief. While the black-robed man looked at the place where Ning Cheng's time wheels swept through, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness also fell on the black-robed skeleton-like man. Perhaps one couldn't say that he was a skeleton because he still had flesh on his body. Although the flesh and skin stuck to the bones, he wasn't a pure skeleton. The black-robed man covered his feet, making people wonder if he wasn't standing on the ground at all. Instead, he was hovering in the air. The black-robed man's black robe was obviously a good weapon, and Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate it. This is a laws of time-related spirit technique. The black-robed man took a deep breath and spoke up in shock after a while. Ning Cheng's celestial rainbow purgatory spear shot out with a void-tearing spear pattern before speaking up in a cold voice. "You're right. Today, I will turn you into a wisp of a dead soul." After seeing this black-robed man, Ning Cheng determined that this black-robed man was a cultivator, not a ghost cultivator or a yin soul. Ning Cheng's traceless spear had long since evolved from the spear intent he had comprehended in the past. The spear intent he had comprehended in the everlasting Blue Thunder Fort had a mighty momentum that could even tear a planet apart. But after he comprehended the Tao law of returning to one, his traceless spear had long since evolved from that spear intent. Although Ning Cheng hadn't touched the laws of space yet, his spear could cross space and erase the distance of the attack in the shortest time. In addition, this spear also contained countless spear patterns. Each spear pattern not only restrained the opponent's killing power, but it also contained a spear intent that could tear through all obstacles around it. After Ning Cheng's understanding of this spear reached a certain level, these spear patterns would directly transform into the most powerful spear domain. Just like the 5-colored star splitter arrow, it would first lock onto the opponent. "Stop!" The black-robed man shouted anxiously. At the same time, his black robe started to inflate like a balloon. Bang bang bang. The celestial rainbow purgatory spear's killing intent and the countless spear patterns all slammed into the black-robed man, making dull sounds. How could Ning Cheng stop? He vaguely felt that this black-robed man had a much lower cultivation compared to the last time he chased after him. For Ning Cheng, even if the other party's cultivation hadn't changed at all, he wouldn't stop. "I'm cultivating here, and I have no grievances with you. Yet you snatched my things and still act so aggressive." The black-robed man saw that Ning Cheng didn't want to stop and spoke up with a hateful tone. Ning Cheng stopped this time. His domain's imposing manner completely covered the black-robed man before speaking up in a cold voice. No grievances? You snatched my companion beast, Grey Toot Toot, and you still dare to say that you have no grievances with me? Grey Toot Toot? That demonic beast with a trace of the god beast Zhu Fang's bloodline is yours? The black-robed man asked in surprise. Ning Cheng had never heard of the god beast Zhu Fang before, so he asked in doubt, what is the god beast Zhu Fang? Is Grey Toot Toot a descendant of Zhu Fang? The black-robed man spoke up with certainty. Zhu Fang is extremely difficult to grow. It's a legendary top-grade god beast that can devour and simulate laws and spirit techniques. The Grey Toot Toot only has a trace of Zhu Fang's bloodline. It's not even the most ordinary starry sky beast, let alone a god beast. The black-robed man's words meant that Ning Cheng's companion beast couldn't even be considered as the most ordinary starry sky beast, let alone a god beast. The only valuable thing was that it contained a trace of Zhu Fang's bloodline. However, it was extremely difficult for an authentic Zhu Fang to grow up, not to mention Grey Toot Toot, which only contained a trace of its bloodline. Ning Cheng finally understood why Zhang Wei said that Grey Toot Toot was not bad. It turned out that it contained a trace of a god beast's bloodline. However, he wasn't in the mood to care about Zhu Fang. What he cared about was where Grey Toot Toot was. Where is Grey Toot Toot? Tell me, maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll let you go. As Ning Cheng spoke, his domain forcibly pressed down. Chapter 8:16. The black-robed man secretly complained. If he could go back a few years, he wouldn't feel afraid of Ning Cheng. Your Grey Toot Toot isn't with me. Someone took it away. The black-robed man spoke up anxiously. When Ning Cheng brought out the time wheel and suppressed him with a powerful domain, he understood that he wasn't Ning Cheng's opponent. As Ning Cheng's domain grew stronger, he couldn't resist at this moment. Hearing that someone took away Grey Toot Toot, Ning Cheng's killing intent immediately surged up. The domain overflowed with murderous intent, and it suppressed the black-robed skeleton to the point of suffering. The black-robed man's cultivation had already fallen a lot. Now that Ning Cheng's powerful killing intent suppressed him, he found it difficult to even speak. Don't do it. If you kill me, you won't be able to find your companion beast. The black-robed man knew that this was his only chance of survival. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath and forcibly suppressed his killing intent before asking coldly, who took away Grey Toot Toot? What is this place? Is it the underworld? Ning Cheng felt that this black-robed man didn't seem to be lying. However, he had already sealed the ancient shadow temple. Who else could come to this place? Feeling Ning Cheng restraining his killing intent, the black-robed man secretly breathed a sigh of relief and spoke up with a worried voice. I can tell you all this, but you have to promise to spare me once. Ning Cheng sneered, you're not qualified to bargain with me. If you don't say it, I can kill you right now. But if you say it, your life and death will depend on my mood. When the black-robed man heard Ning Cheng's words, his voice turned shrill. Then you can kill me right now. I'd rather die than tell you. Since you want to die, then I'll fulfill your wish. I'll search your soul first and then destroy your spirit soul. After Ning Cheng finished speaking, the celestial rainbow purgatory spear turned into a substantial spear intent. When the black-robed man heard the words soul search and spirit soul destruction, he no longer felt that shrill. Instead, he quickly called out, you have to at least allow me to reincarnate before I tell you. Ning Cheng knew that he couldn't search the soul of a cultivator at the level of the black-robed man. But now that the black-robed man said that he would allow him to reincarnate, Ning Cheng thought about it and said, okay, in any case, I won't let your spiritual soul perish. I will allow you to reincarnate. The black-robed man fully understood Ning Cheng's ruthlessness and determination at this moment. But with his current cultivation, he couldn't compete with Ning Cheng at all. Therefore, he had no choice but to give in. This isn't the real underworld. Someone built this place to simulate the first bridge of the underworld to cultivate a spirit technique. That person spent a lot of effort, but could only build the first bridge of coping. He no longer had the ability to build the second bridge. The second bridge? What kind of spiritual technique is this? Ning Qing felt a little curious. This place looked so vast and had spent so much effort on it, but it was actually built by someone else to simulate the Yin world for the purpose of cultivating divine abilities. The black-robed man replied, "The person who built this place is called Zhong Wuchen, and the spiritual technique he wants to cultivate is called the Seven Bridges. The Seven Bridges spiritual technique is the first bridge of coping, the second bridge of looking home, the third bridge of forgetting river, the fourth bridge of yellow springs, the fifth bridge of reincarnation, the sixth bridge of other shore, and the seventh bridge of reincarnation. It's a peerless spirit technique. I've stayed here for thousands of years, but I still couldn't cultivate the first bridge of coping, let alone the Seven Bridges spiritual technique." Ning Qing felt a little shocked. If the first bridge of this spirit technique was so terrifying, then what kind of great spirit technique would it be if one successfully cultivated it? How many lives did this Zhong Wuchen kill to build the first bridge of coping? If he encountered this Seven Bridges spiritual technique, how long could he resist it? The black-robed man didn't know what Ning Qing was thinking about and continued, "Zhong Wuchen built the first bridge of coping here. After cultivating for countless years, he realized that he couldn't cultivate the real Seven Bridges spiritual technique here. But after he left behind some things. One of the Yin souls developed spiritual wisdom after obtaining these things and finally became a ghost cultivator. The ancient Shadow Temple is a place that absorbs Yin souls. Therefore, the ancient Shadow Temple absorbs the Yin souls of countless fallen cultivators and provides them to that ghost cultivator for cultivation. That ghost cultivator saw Zhong Wuchen cultivating the Seven Bridges spiritual technique, and he also started cultivating the Seven Bridges spiritual technique here. Although that ghost cultivator only knew a little bit about it, he managed to cultivate it to a decent level. Then how did you get here? Where did that ghost cultivator go?" Seeing Gray Toot Toot being taken away, Ning Cheng's tone revealed some disappointment. The black-robed man replied, "I accidentally found the ancient Shadow Temple and came to this place. That ghost cultivator controlled me and asked me to help him collect the Yin souls that couldn't cross the coping bridge. The Yin Qi in this place is too heavy, and after a long time, my cultivation not only didn't improve, but also started to fall. I could only change my cultivation method and start using Yin souls to cultivate. Fortunately, that ghost cultivator didn't want low-level Yin souls at all. As long as he wanted high-level Yin souls, my cultivation gradually rose. As the black-robed man spoke until here, he seemed to have fallen into the scene of being controlled by the ghost cultivator. I helped the ghost cultivator capture all kinds of Yin souls here endlessly. I can only cultivate for a while in between. Fortunately, my aptitude is very good. Even so, my cultivation is constantly improving. Later, that ghost cultivator felt that the Yin souls in this place were too low level. He asked me to attract cultivators with high cultivation and took 5 treasures. When Ning Qing heard this, he understood a bit more, and then asked, "You mean to say that you were the one who placed the 5 treasures in the pentagonal hall?" The black-robed man nodded. "Yes, that ghost cultivator forced me to put them in. It's just that the method to control the pentagonal hall and the array formations of the earth gate fell into the hands of that ghost cultivator. Although I put those things in, I couldn't get them back by myself. Those things attracted many top-level cultivators to the ghost cultivator. The ghost cultivator then devoured the essence spirits of those top-level cultivators and put those things in. Until one day I found a soul-suppressing card on a Yin soul. When the ghost cultivator absorbed the Yin souls for cultivation, I suddenly took action and used this soul-suppressing card to suppress the ghost cultivator. My cultivation was too different from that ghost cultivator. Although I managed to suppress him, the two of us still ended up in a stalemate. Moreover, the array formations of the entire ancient Shadow Temple were still under the control of that ghost cultivator." "How did Gray Toot Toot come in?" Ning Qing asked again. The black-robed man replied, "It's because of a heaven cloud Ganoderma that had developed some spiritual wisdom. Gray Toot Toot found that heaven cloud Ganoderma. That heaven cloud Ganoderma fled into the ancient Shadow Temple, and Gray Toot Toot chased after it. Because I found that Gray Toot Toot wasn't simple, I lured it in. Speaking of which, that ghost cultivator also helped me a lot. If he hadn't opened the array formations, I wouldn't have been able to lure Grey Toot Toot inside. After knowing that Grey Toot Toot had a trace of Zhu Fang's bloodline, I tried to force that trace of bloodline out through various means, but to no avail. Ning Cheng's killing intent grew even stronger. No wonder that ghost soldier caught Grey Toot Toot on the futility bridge. It turned out that he wanted to force out Grey Toot Toot's bloodline. A few years ago, a group of you entered the ancient Shadow Temple and even came to the Yellow Spring Pond. Because the ghost cultivator didn't cooperate, he deliberately let the people who entered the life and death gate break the barrier. I had to stop those people from escaping, which consumed a lot of my energy. Plus, you took away the measureless gourd, which I valued the most. That's why I chased after you in a hurry. At this point, the black-robed man's eyes filled with regret. In the end, that ghost cultivator broke free, didn't he? Ning Cheng asked in a cold voice. He finally understood why Chuan Xinlo and the others could come out after getting trapped. It turned out that someone had intentionally let them go. In other words, striking order and the others might not have fallen. The black-robed man sighed. Yes, that ghost cultivator took the opportunity to break free from the soul-suppressing tablet. He also fought against me, severely injured me, and then snatched away Grey Toot Toot. He had a breaking boundary talisman, so I couldn't catch up to him. Ning Cheng guessed that this black-robed man didn't lie. His strength had indeed fallen a lot. You know about the Seven Bridges spirit technique and Zhong Wuchen. Did that ghost cultivator tell you about it? Ning Cheng stared at the black-robed man. Yes, that's what he told me. The black-robed man could feel Ning Cheng's strong murderous intent. He knew that he couldn't survive today and didn't even bother to beg for mercy. He could only hope that Ning Cheng would keep his promise and allow him to reincarnate. What's the name of that ghost cultivator? His name is Ling Ji. That Zhong Wuchen built a mystic realm outside the ancient Shadow Temple. Did he want to let cultivators come in for a trial, and then take the opportunity to extract their souls? Yes, but later he felt that the cultivators who came in for the trial were too low-leveled, so he sealed the ancient Shadow Temple. After asking these questions, the celestial rainbow purgatory spear's spear intent, which had been locked onto the black-robed man, suddenly burst out and instantly turned the black-robed man into slag. Ning Cheng still kept his promise and allowed the black-robed man to reincarnate with a wisp of his soul. Although he had never met Zhong Wuchen, Ning Cheng knew that he was a ruthless person. To cultivate a spirit technique, he not only built a mystic realm, but he also built the Hell's Gate, the Yellow Spring Pond, the Life and Death Gate, the Bridge of Coping. From this, one could imagine how many souls had fallen here to form such a heavy yin qi. Otherwise, even if Zhong Wuchen's attainments in array formations had reached a high level, he couldn't have arranged the violent yin wind that could tear apart eternal cultivators. No wonder it was covered in snow all year round outside covered Snow City. With such heavy yin qi in this place, it would have been strange if there was no snow. After killing the black-robed cultivator, Ning Cheng began to destroy everything under the ancient Shadow Temple. Although Ning Cheng couldn't arrange those array formations, it didn't take him much effort to destroy them. The most powerful function of the time wheel was destruction. As the time wheel blasted out, Ning Cheng destroyed not only the fake first bridge of coping but also the Yellow Spring Pond, the Life and Death Gate, the pitch-black public square, and the pentagonal hall. After Ning Cheng destroyed these places and array formations, the yin qi began to dissipate. Ning Cheng felt sure that as long as a few years passed, the yin qi in this place would dissipate completely. After doing all this, Ning Cheng sealed the real ancient Shadow Temple's gate. As for the trial grounds outside the ancient Shadow Temple, Ning Cheng left them intact. After leaving the ancient Shadow Temple again, Ning Cheng felt completely relieved. He hadn't found Grey Toot Toot yet, but the threat of the ancient Shadow Temple had been removed. That Zhong Wuchen was simply a madman. To cultivate a spirit technique, he actually built such a huge place here. Seven Bridges spirit technique, it sounded quite scary, but Ning Cheng didn't know what it was. Just as he thought of this, Ning Cheng suddenly stopped. Seven Bridges spirit technique? He had obtained a wordless book from the formless sect, which also had 7 pages. Over the past few years, when he went into seclusion in the mysterious yellow sect, he had tried to refine it a little. However, he only knew that this book was called the Seven Bridges Realm Book. After that, he couldn't refine it. Were these two 7 bridges related? Chapter 8:17. After Ning Cheng returned to Covered Snow City, the first thing he did was to go into seclusion to refine the Seven Bridges Realm Book. If this wordless book truly contained the Seven Bridges spirit technique, it definitely wouldn't be any weaker than the 5-colored star splitter arrow. To Ning Cheng's disappointment, even after 3 months of seclusion, the wordless book still had only a name. Apart from that, he didn't get anything else. In desperation, Ning Cheng could only give up on refining the book. He couldn't spend all his time on it. He had to go to Thorn-Tooth Lake to study the teleportation array. Since Yen Ji had teleported away from Thorn-Tooth Lake, Ning Cheng still couldn't feel at ease. As for Mysterious Yellow Celestial River and Jiangzhou Star, Ning Cheng knew that he didn't have to worry about them. What he did in Striking Order Starland and 9 Jewels Starry Sky might not have spread throughout Grand Culmination Starry Sky, but at least everyone around Mysterious Yellow Celestial River knew about it. Even Chuan Xinluo didn't dare to come to Jiangzhou Star to find trouble with Ning Cheng, so who would dare? One could say that Jiangzhou Star, or even Mysterious Yellow Celestial River, was the safest place in this part of the starry sky. Of course, only a few people knew that Chuan Xinluo had left Grand Culmination Starry Sky. Night Essence Celestial Rivers Orchid Bane Stars Thorn-Tooth Lake. Ever since Ning Cheng killed Shangguan Fei and Shangguan Xiang here a few years ago, few people came here. After Luo Xijia completely took over 9 Jewels Starry Sky, Luo Xijia listed this place as a forbidden area. Ning Cheng had been working on the teleportation array under Thorn-Tooth Lake for 2 years now. Over the past 2 years, he had been constantly deducing various forms of teleportation arrays, trying to arrange a one-way teleportation array. Even if he couldn't teleport to the original location, he could at least teleport to a nearby location. Although Ning Cheng had the mysterious yellow formless, and few people could match his deduction ability, he still couldn't deduce the method to arrange a one-way teleportation array, let alone advance to the Array Dao Master Realm. To help Ning Cheng, 9 Jewels Starry Sky Emperor Luo Xijia had collected the best Array Dao Jade strips in the entire 9 Jewels Starry Sky. Unfortunately, these Array Dao Jade strips couldn't help Ning Cheng reach the next level in the Array Dao. Even after studying array formations for several years, he still couldn't advance to the level of an Array Dao Master. This made Ning Cheng deeply understand the difficulties of becoming an Array Dao Master. From a Grade 7 Starry Sky Array Emperor to a Grade 9 Starry Sky Array, Starry Ning Cheng didn't spend much effort. However, the difficulty of advancing to become an Array Dao Master put Ning Cheng in a difficult situation for the first time. Fortunately, he didn't come up empty-handed. After years of studying the Tao of arrays, Ning Cheng realized that he still lacked the most important foundation to advance to the level of an Array Dao Master, the laws of space. No one was like him, who had come into contact with the laws of time for so long, but still hadn't touched the laws of space. In terms of complexity, the law of space was inferior to the law of time. In comparison, touching the law of space was much easier than touching the law of time. However, Ning Cheng touched the laws of time first. In the Tao of arrays, especially when it came to setting up ultra-long-distance teleportation arrays, the Array Master had to have a certain understanding of the laws of space. Otherwise, no matter how strong one's comprehension and deduction ability was, it would be in vain. If you want to fly, you must first have wings. It didn't matter if your wings were solid or in some other form. To come into contact with the laws of space, the most famous of the 4 Grand Starry Skies were the Grand Spirit Heaven Starry Skies Sky Ridge and the Demon Domain's Traceless Gate. The fame of these 2 places was comparable to that of Striking Order Starry Skies Time Wilderness. The difference was that the Time Wilderness was a place to comprehend the laws of time, while the Sky Ridge and the Traceless Gate were places to comprehend the laws of space. The Sky Ridge was filled with spatial collapses, spatial cracks, and spatial dislocations. It also had dense spatial blade lights. In fact, not many cultivators would go to this place to comprehend the laws of space. Going to the Sky Ridge was equivalent to holding one's head in one's hands. The Demon Domain's traceless gate looked safer than the Sky Ridge. Although there were no spatial dislocations here, the traceless gate had too many separate pockets. After entering one of these pockets, one's spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate it. Sometimes, even if two people were close to each other, they couldn't see each other. Many cultivators who tried to comprehend the laws of space in the traceless gate never came out after entering. Only those who knew the inside story understood that the traceless gate was no less dangerous than the Sky Ridge. If Ning Cheng wanted to come into contact with the laws of space in the shortest time, he had to go to these two places. After thinking about it again and again, Ning Cheng decided to go to the traceless gate first. He had seen spatial dislocations and spatial collapses many times, but he couldn't comprehend any laws of space. On the contrary, Ning Cheng had only heard about the traceless gate but had never tried it. The traceless gate was a trial ground for comprehending the laws of space. However, not everyone could enter the traceless gate. Because the entrance to the traceless gate was guarded by the traceless immortal pond, the traceless immortal pond was a real sect. This sect was located in the Grand Demon Domain's starry sky. If one wanted to enter the traceless gate's trial ground, one had to pass through this sect. Standing outside the traceless immortal pond, Ning Cheng felt shocked. This place might not be as majestic as Chuan Xinluo's leveled Heart Emperor Mountain, but this place was definitely the largest sect he had ever seen. The 9 huge heaven-connecting array pillars explained everything. These heaven-connecting array pillars required a lot of top-grade materials, which required many artifact crafting and array formation grandmasters to arrange. Even on stately River Star, he wouldn't waste so much. Several suspended waterfalls appeared in the air, and Ning Cheng could tell that these waterfalls were the hidden array foundations of the sect. The majestic sound of the waterfalls indicated that this was a powerful sect, no weaker than any other place. This was just a corner of it. Ning Cheng, a peak-level array emperor, could easily tell that this kind of grand arrangement was everywhere in the traceless immortal pond. Ning Cheng had just observed for a while when a young female cultivator came out to receive him. After hearing Ning Cheng's intentions, she didn't ask any nonsense. She asked Ning Cheng to pay 100 permanent essence pills and directly brought Ning Cheng to the traceless immortal pond's guest room. Ning Cheng was famous in Grand Culmination Starry Sky. Even Devil Domain's Silent Bubble Starland had heard of Ning Cheng's name. But in Demon Domain's traceless immortal pond, Ning Cheng was truly unknown. No one had heard of him at all. Ning Cheng wasn't the only one who wanted to enter the traceless gate through the traceless immortal pond. When Ning Cheng arrived at the traceless immortal pond's guest room, 5 people were already waiting here, and he was the 6th. Most of the people who came here to comprehend the laws of space were reclusive cultivators. When Ning Cheng came in, the first 5 people in the guest room all had their eyes closed, and none of them spoke. Of these 5 people, 3 were male and 2 were female. Except for 1 in the heaven-seated realm, the other 4 were 2 in the life and death realm and 2 in the eternal realm. Among the 2 eternal cultivators, 1 was even at the late-stage eternal realm. Ning Cheng didn't like waiting here, but he had no other choice. The traceless gate was the territory of the traceless immortal pond. Therefore, he had no choice but to wait. Fortunately, Ning Cheng didn't have to wait long before a middle-aged female cultivator arrived at the guest room. When Ning Cheng saw this middle-aged female cultivator, he felt that the traceless immortal pond wasn't simple. This middle-aged female cultivator, who came out to receive guests, already had early-stage eternal cultivation. The middle-aged female cultivator cupped her fists towards Ning Cheng's group of 6 and said, "As the guardian sect of the traceless gate, my traceless immortal pond would like to thank everyone for coming to the traceless gate to comprehend the laws of space. Although everyone already knows about it, I still have to say some words first. Since the establishment of the traceless immortal pond, a total of 1,113,412 cultivators have entered the traceless gate, but a total of 90,378 people have come out unscathed. Of course, We don't know how many of these people managed to comprehend the laws of space. However, I can tell you one thing. Devil Domain Grand Starry Skies Heavenly Emperor Xiao Jirui has entered the Traceless Gate. I believe that everyone knows about Heavenly Emperor Xiao Jirui's 5-colored myriad connecting banner, which came from the Traceless Gate. Moreover, I believe that few people in the 4 Grand Starry Skies could match his control over the laws of space. Ning Cheng truly didn't know that Xiao Jirui had entered the Traceless Gate. However, Ning Cheng had seen the 5-colored myriad connecting banner before. It truly was a space-type weapon. Ning Cheng didn't care about Xiao Jirui's laws of space. Compared to the red-haired man he killed, Xiao Jirui's control over the laws of space was too weak. However, the survival rate of entering the Traceless Gate shocked Ning Cheng. It was less than 1/10. The other 5 people looked calm. Apparently, they all knew about the dangers of the Traceless Gate before coming here. Seeing the 6 people remaining silent, the middle-aged female cultivator continued, "Apart from paying 10,000 permanent essence pills to enter the Traceless Gate, there is another task." Ning Cheng asked in doubt, "Didn't we pay 100 permanent essence pills when we came in? Why do we still have to pay 10,000 permanent essence pills?" This 10,000 permanent essence pills is the fee to enter the Traceless Gate. As for the 100 permanent essence pills, it's the reception fee. The middle-aged female cultivator glanced at Ning Cheng and spoke with a calm voice. Ning Cheng looked at the cup of spirit tea in front of him and couldn't help but think that it was too expensive. A cup of water cost 100 permanent essence pills? 10,000 permanent essence pills naturally didn't mean much to him. But with over 1 million people, how many permanent essence pills would it cost? No wonder the Traceless Immortal Pond was so rich. No, even if 1 million people entered the Traceless Gate, the Traceless Immortal Pond wouldn't be this rich. After all, these million people didn't come here all at once. It was an accumulation of countless years. Ning Cheng was a top-notch artifact crafting emperor and a top-notch Starry Sky Array emperor master. Therefore, he naturally understood how much money Traceless Immortal Pond spent to build it. From the looks of it, the Traceless Immortal Pond seemed to have other sources of income. While Ning Cheng was thinking about it, the others had already handed over permanent essence pills. 2 cultivators didn't have enough permanent essence pills and used perpetual moon pills instead. Ning Cheng didn't hesitate and directly took out 10,000 permanent essence pills and handed it over. He already had hundreds of millions of permanent essence pills on him. After putting away the permanent essence pills and perpetual moon pills handed over by the 6 people, the middle-aged female cultivator continued, "Many cultivators in the Traceless Gate never came out after entering, including many disciples of my Traceless Immortal Pond. Therefore, when you enter the Traceless Gate, you also have a mission. As long as you can find my Traceless Immortal Pond's disciples in the Traceless Gate and bring them out, we will reward you with at least 100,000 permanent essence pills. Even if the highest reward is 100 million permanent essence pills, my Traceless Immortal Pond will not be stingy." Chapter 8:18. With such an expensive jade strip, it would have been strange if no one did such a thing. If this was the case, then they would have no good end in the future. Ning Cheng even suspected that the places on the jade strip were all traps set up by Traceless Immortal Pond. As long as they went there, they would most likely fall into the hands of Traceless Immortal Pond. The group followed the middle-aged female cultivator vigilantly for nearly an incense stick worth of time before arriving at a stone platform less than 10 feet in diameter. In front of this platform was a circular door that looked like a soap bubble and looked somewhat shiny. Above this soap bubble door were 3 words, "Traceless Gate." Ning Cheng noticed that apart from the late-stage eternal cultivator, the young female cultivator among the other 5 also seemed to want to buy it. However, she quickly suppressed the idea. Presumably, she was afraid of exposing her wealth. From this, Ning Cheng could tell that this young female cultivator was a cautious cultivator. There was only one reason why these jade strips hadn't leaked out. That is, none of the cultivators who bought these jade strips could walk out of the Traceless Gate. Otherwise, even if someone who bought these jade strips could walk out of the Traceless Gate, it would still leak out. Even if they couldn't copy it, they could still recreate it according to their memories. This late-stage eternal cultivator wasn't wrong. Ning Cheng had seen the 3 jade strips and confirmed that they were indeed locked by restrictions. But these restrictions didn't mean anything to him. If he wanted to copy them, he could easily copy them. Ning Cheng didn't intend to copy them. Firstly, these were traceless immortal pawns business methods. Copying them would be equivalent to destroying the market, which would be considered piracy. Secondly, Ning Cheng didn't feel like copying them for these permanent essence pills. The middle-aged female cultivator put away the permanent essence pills and spoke up with satisfaction, "Please follow me into the traceless gate." However, after the group stepped onto the chain, they understood why there was a chain here. Stepping on this chain, one could only feel a strong downward force, while one's spiritual consciousness felt completely suppressed. Seeing this late-stage eternal cultivator enter, the others also followed suit. They all had the same idea. Soon, only Ning Cheng remained. The late-stage eternal cultivator's expression changed slightly. Apparently, he also figured out what was going on. Without saying anything, he turned around and rushed into the traceless gate that looked like a soap bubble. From the looks of it, he knew that only by becoming stronger could he have a chance of survival. After saying that, the middle-aged female cultivator took out a few jade strips and held one of them up. This is a map of the traceless gate. Countless disciples of my traceless immortal pond exchanged their lives for it. It shows many small spaces within the traceless gate. Everyone knew that once one entered the traceless gate, there would be no spatial orientation or direction. However, as long as it's a space marked on the jade slip in my hand, there will be directions so that you won't lose your way. This locational jade strip sells for 100,000 permanent essence pills. Only then did Ning Cheng understand that compared to the previous 10,100 permanent essence pills, this was the real way to make money. The middle-aged female cultivator stopped and said, "This is the traceless gate. I wish you good luck." Not waiting for Ning Cheng to answer, the late-stage eternal cultivator, who bought 3 jade strips like Ning Cheng, spoke up, "He can't copy it to you. This jade strip is locked by restrictions. As long as you try to copy it, it would shatter. Moreover, even if it doesn't shatter, the restrictions on this jade slip will restrict the duplication. Unless you are a top-array emperor, you won't be able to duplicate it." Hearing the late-stage eternal cultivator's explanation, the rest of the people showed disappointed expressions. Ning Cheng asked in doubt, "You should have heard about the traceless gate before coming here, right? Haven't you heard about the traceless immortal pond selling jade strips? Or does the traceless immortal pond not allow people to re-engrave jade strips for sale?" It stood to reason that the cultivators who bought the jade strips would have a higher chance of survival. So why couldn't anyone come out? Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through the surrounding monitoring arrays and sneered before entering the traceless gate. No wonder the traceless immortal pond was so rich. It turned out to be a black shop. Anyone who could take out permanent essence pills to buy jade strips was obviously a wealthy cultivator. These wealthy cultivators would register at the traceless immortal pond. But once they came out, they would only end up dead. The wealth of these cultivators would then transform into the wealth of the traceless gate. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to sigh at the high price, the middle-aged female cultivator raised another jade strip and said, "This is the traceless gate's escape jade strip. Of course, this jade strip can't help you escape 100% of the time. As long as you find a small space marked on this jade strip, you can follow the instructions of the jade strip to get out of the traceless gate. Each jade strip also costs 200,000 permanent essence pills." Ning Cheng truly felt puzzled. Nearly 100,000 cultivators had come out of the traceless gate. Why didn't any of these 100,000 people inscribe jade strips for sale? "Give me one of each." The late-stage eternal cultivator spoke up. He had paid 500,000 permanent essence pills with just a raise of his hand, which showed that he was a wealthy person. The others also felt the unrestricted suppression of their spiritual consciousness, and their expressions changed drastically. Although for cultivators above the heaven-seated realm, even if they couldn't use their spiritual consciousness, they wouldn't fall to their deaths. But this situation was clearly beyond everyone's expectations. Moreover, the Traceless Gate had plenty of starry sky spirit chi and even some high-grade treasures. Heavenly Emperor Ji-Rei's 5-colored myriad connecting banner doesn't need to be mentioned. Even the starry sky radish grass has appeared in the Traceless Gate. I also have a similar jade strip with me, which can let you know the distribution of these small spaces in the Traceless Gate. Each one costs 200,000 permanent essence pills. The heaven-seated cultivator frowned after he finished speaking. Apparently, he felt that something wasn't right. He didn't care about such things normally, so he naturally didn't find it strange. But now that he specifically mentioned it, he felt a little strange. The others also felt a little strange, and Ning Cheng felt that something was wrong. Although the jade strips couldn't be copied, they could always re-engrave it. As long as they could remember the contents inside, it wouldn't be a problem to re-engrave it in the future. Seeing Ning Cheng purchase the jade strips, several people in the guest room looked at Ning Cheng with some doubts. In their opinion, Ning Cheng should be the poorest cultivator here. For a mere 100 permanent essence pills, he even mentioned it. It would be strange if such a cultivator was rich. But this cultivator, whom they thought to be the poorest, didn't hesitate to take out 500,000 permanent essence pills and buy 3 jade strips. I've heard about Traceless Immortal Pond selling jade strips at sky-high prices, but such jade strips don't sell outside. As for Traceless Immortal Pond not allowing people to re-engrave such jade strips, it doesn't seem to exist, right? Anyway, I've never heard of such a thing. Besides, they didn't say anything about re-engraving. I guess they know that no one can re-engrave such jade strips, or that such jade strips have never leaked out. The heaven-seated cultivator said with a frown. Regardless of whether Traceless Immortal Pond did such a thing or not, he didn't mind raising Traceless Immortal Pond to the ground if they had any ideas about him in the future. After saying that, the middle-aged female cultivator turned around and walked away, disappearing at the end of the chain in an instant. Because she was on the ground, her spiritual consciousness and celestial essence had fully recovered. As such, the few people immediately relaxed their vigilance. The middle-aged female cultivator didn't bring out a flight-type weapon. Instead, she led the 6 people onto a long suspended chain. This chain was only as thick as a thumb, and it hovered in the air, surrounded by layers of white clouds. The only reason was that the cultivators who bought the jade strips were being targeted. Even if they could come out alive, they would most likely die. Even some of the cultivators who didn't buy the jade strips and managed to get out of the Traceless Gate alive would end up dead just because they suspected it. Ning Cheng looked like someone with average cultivation. But no one in this room dared to underestimate Ning Cheng. How could a cultivator who cultivated a messy cultivation method take out so many permanent essence pills? Even with these permanent essence pills, one could buy a good cultivation method. Most likely, this cultivator had concealed his cultivation. Ning Cheng had a starry sky sea of consciousness, which made him extremely powerful. However, he didn't care about this kind of spiritual consciousness suppression. As long as he wanted to, his spiritual consciousness could break through the surrounding suppressive space at any time, bring out a flight-type weapon, or use his spiritual consciousness and celestial essence to step out of the void. Even if his spiritual consciousness couldn't break through, or even stretch out, he could forcibly wield the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to escape. Because of Ning Cheng's wealth, the few of them paid even more attention to Ning Cheng. But soon, they discovered that Ning Cheng's cultivation didn't seem to be high. That's because the celestial wheels behind Ning Cheng looked messy and disorderly. It looked even worse than the heaven-seated cultivator in the room. Only those who cultivated low-level cultivation methods could form such irregular celestial wheels. Everyone here was a top-level cultivator. Not to mention this floating chain, even if there wasn't a chain, no one would care about walking through the void. Ning Cheng and the others stood up. But unlike before, Ning Cheng's generosity had caused the other 5 people's spiritual consciousness to linger on him for a long time. Friend, I'm willing to pay you 100,000 permanent essence pills, as long as you give me a copy of those 3 jade strips. The middle-aged female cultivator had just left when another eternal cultivator spoke up to Ning Cheng with cupped fists. 500,000 permanent essence pills was a fortune for eternal cultivators, but it didn't mean much to Ning Cheng. He didn't hesitate to take out 500,000 permanent essence pills and purchase the 3 jade strips. Chapter 8:19. The comprehension of the laws of space always started from the most basic, which was to compress space through speed. When the speed reached a certain level, space would be compressed to almost nothing. Only by compressing this space to almost nothing could one slowly touch the laws of space and truly walk into the laws of space. At this point, even without speed, one could compress the spatial distance through the laws of space. After waking up, Ning Cheng found that it had been 4 years since he fell into this comprehension of grasping space. Ning Cheng gave out a sigh before he stopped. No matter how vicious the traceless immortal pawn's methods were, the traceless gate was real. This place was indeed a place where countless spatial conversions took place. The desert he had just experienced was one space, and the gray void he experienced now was another space. What was space? On the surface, space was just the distance between substances and the open area. But with Ning Cheng's cultivation, he naturally understood that space was far from simple. Maybe 2 substances were adjacent, but the space between them was endless. He could use his divine sense to grab another material that was a distance away from him, and then forcibly compress the space between him and the material. Even if the other substance was countless planets away from him, as long as his spiritual consciousness touched it, he could realize his thoughts. In an instant, he could compress this space into nothingness and turn it into nothingness. The traceless gate had all kinds of spatial conversions, and Ning Cheng, who had fallen into a state of comprehension, constantly changed between these spaces. A slightly hoarse voice woke Ning Cheng up, and he abruptly sobered up from this endless state of comprehension. The more Ning Cheng thought about it, the more he felt a headache. He wanted to force himself to stop comprehending this problem, but he couldn't stop. If someone followed Ning Cheng at this time, they would clearly see Ning Cheng constantly changing spaces within the traceless gate. At the same time, he kept punching out with his fists, and from time to time, he also made hand seals before grabbing out. The traces of the Tao charm laws flowed around his body and changed from time to time. This was also because he didn't have a master. If he had a master to teach him, Ning Cheng would never do such a ridiculous thing. In fact, even Ning Cheng himself didn't know that he was acting so ridiculous right now. It was a typical case of someone who hadn't learned how to walk and had already started running. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it just now." Ning Cheng apologized with cupped fists. To be honest, this female cultivator could only be described as delicate and pretty, and he truly didn't have any thoughts about her. A female cultivator at the early stage of the eternal realm, yet he casually grabbed her by her clothes. It felt a bit strange. After Ning Cheng completely sobered up, he finally understood the absurdity of his own perception. He actually wanted to grasp the distance between 2 different spaces. This was simply equivalent to grasping something from one interface to another. Time continued to disappear under Ning Cheng's perception. Not knowing for how long, Ning Cheng suddenly slapped his head. Space might be very complicated, but was it really necessary for him to think so deeply? All he needed to do was to grasp the distance between 2 objects, no matter what space it was. Laws of space. Ning Cheng and the female cultivator exclaimed almost at the same time. Ning Cheng could use the sunset's twilight spirit technique to stop time for a single breath. However, this single breath was only within the scope of his spirit technique's influence. Once it exceeded this limit, he would no longer be able to control it. As for fighting, Ning Cheng really did not care about it. He didn't even fear Chuan Xinlo. At most, Traceless Immortal Pond only had a few array formation restrictions. As a Starry Sky Grade 9 array emperor, how could he put this in his eyes? However, he would not waste his time on such a boring thing. He still needed to comprehend the laws of space. This was already the 4th year since Ning Cheng came here. Perhaps no one had ever been like Ning Cheng, constantly switching between spaces for 4 years. He even fell into a demonic barrier. He would never give up until he grasped both spaces in his hands. The female cultivator quickly took out a coat and put it on before speaking up in a cold voice. Don't you feel ashamed to use such an excuse? If you want a woman, you might as well say it directly. There's no need to use such means. There might be countless cultivators in the traceless gate who came here to comprehend the laws of space. But similarly, there were countless spaces in this place. No one knew how many small spaces the traceless gate had. Therefore, even if Ning Cheng had come here for many years, he had not met a single person. Ning Cheng stepped through the soap bubble-like traceless gate and saw a desert in front of him. His spiritual consciousness could cover the entire desert, but when he reached the edge of the desert, he found nothing but an endless void. He couldn't even touch the end. During these transitions, he had experienced all kinds of spaces: desert spaces, swamp spaces, forest spaces, ocean spaces, mountain spaces. When the female cultivator heard Ning Cheng's apology, she felt a bit calmer. But she didn't expect that after Ning Cheng said those words, he didn't explain anything. Instead, he fell into silence. Not even able to find an excuse, the female cultivator suddenly felt unhappy in her heart. The traceless gate was indeed the best place to comprehend the laws of space. There was no place more suitable than this place to comprehend the laws of space. Want a woman? Ning Cheng suddenly frowned. He quickly understood what was going on. He had fallen into the obsession of grasping space. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng no longer felt like apologizing. His eyes showed surprise and said to the female cultivator, "I'm going to attack you now." There was at least a dozen meters between Ning Cheng and the female cultivator. When Ning Cheng raised his hand to grab her, the dozen meters of space seemed to suddenly disappear. He didn't use the traceless spirit technique. Almost at the same time Ning Cheng stretched out his hand, he had already arrived in front of the female cultivator. It seemed that the spatial distance between him and the female cultivator had completely disappeared after he stretched out his hand. As he spoke, Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed it. Time flowed by in this boring space transformation, while Ning Cheng was completely immersed in it. The reason why he kept switching between different spaces was because he felt that every time he switched from one space to another, his perception was the deepest. In this place, he could even feel space folding, space distortions. The twin wings of the heavenly clouds continued to flap. After a few days, Ning Cheng found that the desert where he stood before had completely disappeared, and in front of him was an empty gray space. The ground, the sky, and even the breathing gave off a grayish feeling. It wasn't that Ning Cheng couldn't find an excuse, but he suddenly remembered something. If he could grab something from another space in another space, didn't that mean that he had already succeeded in his first step? Ning Cheng took out the few jade strips he had purchased, which all contained directions. Ning Cheng sneered in his heart. He didn't know if the jade strip that indicated the location of the treasures contained the real treasure or not. But he was sure that as long as he went to this place, he would have to face a battle. In Ning Cheng's heart, he felt that he was only a little bit away from success. He didn't dare to stop, fearing that this perception would suddenly break. During this period, he repeatedly switched spaces, and then continued to grab. When Ning Cheng was still in school, he had thought about space and time. Space and time were the fundamental properties of the universe, and time was irreversible. In fact, after Ning Cheng comprehended the laws of time, he knew that as long as one's ability reached a certain level, time could also be reversed. It was just that this reversal was relative and within a certain range. One could imagine, if someone could reverse the time of the entire vast starry sky, just how terrifying would that person's spirit ability be? 1 year, 2 years. Ning Cheng wielded the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and rushed out of the desert. Once again, he came into contact with the boundless space, without color or shape. It was as if he was switching between 3 or even 4-dimensional spaces. He could only feel the space between time and space, but he couldn't really control the transition between time and space. Putting away the jade strip, Ning Cheng began to constantly switch spaces within the traceless gate. In this place, as long as you kept moving, you might end up in another space from one space to another, or you might end up trapped in one of the spaces forever, never to come out. There was no direction, no position, and no life aura. Ning Cheng looked at the disheveled female cultivator in front of him with slight gratitude. "Did you wake me up just now?" He had experienced spatial collapses, spatial dislocations, spatial cracks. It was the same for everything, even the laws. As long as there was a beginning, there would be countless processes, and then an end. It was just like the countless spaces within the traceless gate. Although two spaces were adjacent to each other, they were actually separated by countless distances. This truth was the same as the distance between interfaces and planes that Song-Wei had explained to him. It was a wall, and the laws of space allowed him to ignore this wall. As for ripping off this female cultivator's clothes, it was a normal thing. The spaces inside the traceless gate were all silent spaces. Except for a few, most of them were lifeless. Once he sensed any spiritual power fluctuations, he would grab them first. This female cultivator was at the early stage eternal realm, and cultivating in this place meant that there was a huge space and spiritual power fluctuations. Ning Qing frowned. He clearly wanted to understand the laws of space, so why did he suddenly think of time? However, he also felt that this idea was not wrong. After all, time and space had an inseparable relationship. If a person could control the space of the entire universe, wouldn't his laws of time also affect the entire universe? As for wanting to compress space on a large scale like Ning Cheng, or even wanting to control the range of different spaces in his hands, it was simply a dream. If Ning Cheng's cultivation increased by 1,000 times, Ning Cheng might be able to do it. But now, Ning Cheng's strength clearly wasn't enough. Because there was no one in this space at all, how could this female cultivator think of the celestial essence hand that suddenly stretched out from this space? She had also fallen into a state of enlightenment, which naturally caught her off guard. It was similar to when Ning Qing first came into contact with the laws of time. Before sunset's twilight, he had compressed time without limit, making time flow extremely slowly. In fact, it wasn't the laws of time, but it was the best way to comprehend the laws of time. A gray space without anything, a hollow world, a wind blade world. But with so many cultivators inside the traceless gate, it was only a matter of time before they met other cultivators. At this time, Ning Cheng fell into a state of enlightenment, grasping the distance between two spaces. That's right, Ning Cheng wasn't grasping the material distance within the same space. Rather, he was now immersed in grasping the material distance between two different spaces. Chapter 8:20. Just as his hand was about to grab the female cultivator, Ning Cheng stopped. He only felt ecstatic at this moment. He had unknowingly comprehended the laws of space without even knowing it. If it weren't for this female cultivator's interruption, he might have continued to grasp the distance between two different spaces. Maybe one day he might have succeeded, but how long would that day be? 10 years, 100 years, or even more than 1,000 years? Did you successfully comprehend the laws of space? How long have you been here? The female cultivator had already forgotten about Ning Qing ripping off her clothes, and her eyes were filled with surprise. From the bottom of his heart, Ning Qing still felt grateful to this female cultivator for waking him up. Now that the other party asked, Ning Qing honestly replied, "It's been a few years. This is the longest time I've been in an epiphany." Ning Qing didn't lie. He had never spent a few years in an epiphany. A few years? The longest. Heavens! The female cultivator's gaze towards Ning Qing had completely changed. She thought of herself as a cultivation genius, but she had already entered the traceless gate for hundreds of years. Over the past few hundred years, she had only just come into contact with the laws of space, while this person touched the laws of space in just a few years. The difference was just too big. Thank you. If you hadn't woken me up, I might have fallen into that kind of obsession. Ning Qing cupped his fists and thanked her sincerely. The female cultivator rolled her eyes and quickly said, "If you want to thank me, can you tell me about the laws of space you comprehended?" After that, she looked at Ning Qing expectantly. Although she knew that such a request was almost impossible, she still couldn't help but ask it. Ning Qing hesitated for a moment before saying, "It's not that I don't want to say it, but I really don't know how to say it." If he could say it, Ning Qing would not hide it. It didn't matter, not to mention that this female cultivator had helped him. It was like swimming. You could swim, but you couldn't tell others how to float on the water and not sink. The same was true for laws. This kind of feeling could only be understood and not spoken. If you knew it, then you knew it. If you didn't know it, then you didn't know it. The female cultivator's eyes flashed with disappointment when she heard Ning Cheng's words, but she still nodded. I understand. She did understand. Even if she had comprehended the law of space, she would not casually reveal the essence of this law to a stranger. Ning Cheng, on seeing the disappointment in this female cultivator's eyes, still spoke up. I try to perceive the distance and orientation between two objects in space. Then, through this reference object, I use my spiritual consciousness to obtain the spatial distance between the objects. Then I use my celestial essence and spiritual consciousness to grasp the space. Ning Cheng's words were very general, but the female cultivator's eyes lit up after listening to it. That's right, her perception of the laws of space had always been aimed at the space in front of her, or at the space she had comprehended. She had never thought of such a method. Seeing that his proposal finally gave this female cultivator some hints, Ning Cheng quickly spoke up. I have to go, goodbye. After comprehending the laws of space, the first thing Ning Cheng wanted to do was to head to Night Essence Celestial River's Thorn-Tooth Lake and continue to study the one-way teleportation array. He had a premonition that after comprehending the space laws, he would soon advance to become an Array Dao Master. Wait. The female cultivator, on hearing that Ning Cheng wanted to leave, quickly called out to Ning Cheng. I still have one more thing that I want to cooperate with you on. What is it? Ning Cheng asked. The female cultivator hesitated for a moment before speaking up. I know a place with space crystals containing the laws of space. But I don't understand the laws of space, so I can't get it. Now, I'll take you to that place and we can split the space crystals equally. Space crystals? Ning Cheng repeated the words in shock. As a top-notch artifact crafting grandmaster and a top-notch Starry Sky Grade 9 Array Emperor, Ning Cheng naturally understood the preciousness of space crystals. Space crystals contained the laws of space, which not only allowed cultivators to comprehend the laws of space, but also allowed them to refine storage-type weapons containing the laws of space. Artifact crafting materials such as underworld space stones couldn't compare to it. Underworld space stones and some top-notch space-type materials could be used to refine storage rings, storage bags, and so on. However, such storage devices generally couldn't contain living things. There was only one reason for this, that is, there were no real laws of heaven and earth. However, there were also some top-notch materials that top-notch artifact crafting grandmasters could use to refine miniature worlds. Although these miniature worlds could support life, they had almost no laws binding them and were extremely fragile. They couldn't compare to real space crystals. But space crystals, on the other hand, contained the laws of space. If combined with laws of time crystals, one could fuse them with materials that could be used to refine miniature worlds, and one could refine a perfect living space. The space created from the fusion of such materials was also known as a law world, and its value far exceeded that of ordinary miniature worlds. More importantly, space crystals were the best material for refining long-distance teleportation arrays. It was much more precious than the time stones Ning Cheng obtained. Time stones only allowed people to come into contact with the laws of time, but they didn't contain the complete laws of time. Only things like time crystals could help people comprehend the laws of time. However, the time crystal was even more precious than the space crystal. Yes, I'm sure it's space crystals. I've stayed here for nearly 100 years and haven't obtained any of those crystals. But I believe that I'm not mistaken. I only have one request, that is, to split the things equally. The female cultivator spoke with a firm tone. Ning Cheng felt warm in his heart. Who would dislike having too many space crystals? He subconsciously reached out and said, I agree with your distribution plan. My name is Ning Cheng. I hope we can cooperate happily. The female cultivator saw Ning Cheng reach out but didn't reach out to shake his hand. Perhaps she didn't understand the etiquette of shaking hands. Instead, she cupped her fists and said, My name is Mu Wei. I stayed in this space for space crystals. Ning Cheng quickly retracted his hand and said, Senior Apprentice Sister Mu Wei, please lead the way. The space where Mu Wei stood was a desert without even the slightest bit of greenery. When Ning Cheng heard Mu Wei speak about space crystals, he immediately swept out with his spiritual consciousness but didn't see any space crystals. An hour later, Mu Wei stopped and pointed to the nothingness in front of her. There are space crystals on the other side. I've tried countless methods, but I couldn't get them. Ning Cheng looked at the nothingness in front of him in doubt and said, Senior Apprentice Sister Mu Wei, according to my experience, through this nothingness, it should be another space. Ning Cheng's words abruptly stopped. He felt that this nothingness was different from other places. Mu Wei quickly explained on hearing Ning Cheng's words, there are definitely space crystals in front of us. My eyes are different from ordinary cultivators. I can see through parts of the nothingness. It's because I'm afraid that once I go in, I would fall into another space and never be able to return to this place. That's why I didn't dare to move. However, I can see that there is an insurmountable space between the location of the space crystal and the place where we are. I don't understand the laws of space, so I can't get past it. You're right. There is indeed a different space on the other side. Ning Cheng could also see the difference. His spiritual consciousness also noticed that this space was different from other places. He had switched between too many spaces, and every time he switched, he would encounter this kind of nothingness. The nothingness in front of him was obviously different from the spaces he had switched between before. This place had a strong aura of the laws of space. Not only that, he could also feel a strong fluctuation of the laws of space on the other side of the nothingness. Under normal circumstances, when Ning Cheng switched between spaces, he could only feel the space changing. It was absolutely impossible to feel such strong fluctuations of the laws of space. If there were such strong fluctuations of the laws of space every time he switched between spaces, he would have already comprehended the laws of space. I want to go and have a look, but I can't guarantee that I can reach the other side. Once there is an error, I might end up in another unrelated space, and I would lose these space crystals forever. Do you want to stay here, or come with me? Ning Cheng looked at Mu Wei after speaking. Mu Wei hesitated for a while before asking, if you can reach the location of the space crystal, can you come back? Ning Cheng shook his head and said, the chance of coming back is only 1 in 10,000. If you don't go, and I get the space crystal, I can only tell you where I am. If you can get out of the traceless gate in the future, you can go to my place and ask for the rest of the starry sky crystals. I'll go with you, Mu Wei said without hesitation, although she didn't think that Ning Cheng was the kind of person who would swallow everything. But in case Ning Cheng took the space crystal and left, what would be the point of her staying here? If Ning Cheng couldn't find the location of the space crystal, then she could only blame herself for not having the opportunity. Without the opportunity, even if she comprehended the real laws of space countless years later, she might end up the same as Ning Cheng. Okay, I'll grab you and go with you. Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed Mu Wei's waist. At the same time, he stepped into the void. The distance in the void seemed to turn into nothingness under his feet. In just a dozen steps, Ning Cheng stood at the edge of a crystal-clear world. So beautiful! Mu Wei looked at the beautiful scenery in front of her in shock and exclaimed. This world was transparent, and one could feel the fluctuations of the laws coming from the space crystal from time to time. Ning Cheng also felt shocked. It was even more shocking than the ice crystal world. It felt like a scene straight out of a fairy tale. But what surprised Ning Cheng even more was that this place not only contained many space crystals, but also rich starry sky essence spirit chi. Seeing Mu Wei's hands trembling with excitement, Ning Cheng simply said, Senior Apprentice Sister Mu Wei, there are at least hundreds of space crystals here. Let's do it this way, whoever gets it can keep it. There's no need to split it evenly. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to say. After Mu Wei finished, her figure flashed and rushed towards one of the spatial fluctuations. Since Mu Wei started first, Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't fall behind. He had the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, which allowed him to move much faster than Mu Wei. Mu Wei quickly discovered that her speed wasn't even 1/3 of Ning Cheng's. But she didn't feel disappointed. She felt very satisfied with collecting so many space crystals in this place. Chapter 821. After half a day, Ning Cheng obtained 184 space crystals, while Mu Wei obtained more than 60 space crystals. Mu Wei couldn't help but feel surprised in her heart. She looked at Ning Cheng gratefully and spoke, "With these space crystals, I'm sure that I can touch the laws of space within a year. It's all thanks to you." "Thank you." Ning Cheng smiled, "I should be the one thanking you. Without your guidance, I would not have been able to obtain so many space crystals. I'm leaving now. See you later." Ning Cheng felt very satisfied in his heart after obtaining so many space crystals. The starry sky spirit chi here is so abundant. Why don't you stay here and cultivate? Mu Wei looked at Ning Cheng in doubt. Logically speaking, with such rich starry sky essence spirit chi in this place, he should have stayed here to cultivate. "No, I have something to do." Ning Cheng shook his head and replied. He naturally would not stay here to cultivate. He had a lot of things to take care of. How could he waste his time in the traceless gate? Since Ning Cheng didn't cultivate in this place, it would naturally be better for Mu Wei. This transparent space was only so big, which meant that the starry sky essence spirit chi was also limited. One person staying here to cultivate was naturally better than two people. "Brother Ning, we will meet again." Mu Wei also said her goodbyes to Ning Cheng. Before leaving, Ning Cheng couldn't help but say, "Senior apprentice Sister Mu Wei, if you go out of the traceless gate in the future, be careful of the traceless immortal pond." But Mu Wei asked, confused. "I suspect that traceless immortal pond started to attack the cultivators who came out of the traceless gate." Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't help traceless immortal pond hide it. Therefore, he told Mu Wei all his speculations. Mu Wei apparently felt shocked by Ning Cheng's guess. After entering the traceless gate, she had always been thinking about comprehending the laws of space. How could she have the time to think about other things? She finally remembered why Ning Cheng had said that if she could get out of the traceless gate in the future. She thought that Ning Cheng was afraid that he would get lost in the traceless gate, which was why he couldn't get out. After all, most of the cultivators who couldn't get out of the traceless gate lost their way and couldn't find a way out. Only now did she realize that Ning Cheng meant that if she hadn't fallen for traceless immortal pond's plot. While Mu Wei hesitated for a while, Ning Cheng had already left this side of the space and disappeared without a trace. Mu Wei gave out a sigh. She decided to cultivate to the late-stage eternal realm before going out. Fortunately, this place was suitable for her cultivation. Just when he wanted to go back, Ning Cheng realized that he really was lost. Even though he had touched upon the spatial laws, he still had no sense of direction in this place. He took out the 3 jade strips he bought from Traceless Immortal Pond. But at this moment, he still couldn't see the instructions on the jade strips. Clearly, the 3 jade slips had lost their effect in this place. The Traceless Gate contained countless spatial pockets. Ning Cheng spent 2 or 3 months wandering through these spatial pockets without interruption, but still couldn't find a way out. Not to mention an exit, there wasn't even a shadow of a person to be seen. 3 months without any progress, which made Ning Cheng anxious. He even wondered if it would take him another 4 years to get out of the Traceless Gate. If it took him 4 years to walk out of the Traceless Gate, then it would be fine. However, he was afraid that he would still not be able to walk out of the Traceless Gate after spending 4 years. As another month passed by, Ning Cheng finally stopped running around like a headless fly. He decided to try tearing space. The stability of the space here was far inferior to that of the starry sky precinct outside. Now that he had mastered the laws of space, his spiritual consciousness could barely touch the outside of this space. He could even touch the boundaries of these spaces. As long as he could tear open these spaces, his chances of getting out would increase by countless times. Tearing space had always been something that powerhouses could do. Ning Cheng could touch the boundaries of the precinct in Graceful Star Mainland. It stood to reason that he should have been able to tear open the space of Graceful Star Mainland. However, he didn't do so. As for the space within the starry sky, not to mention Ning Cheng, even Chuan Xinlo and the 9th Prince couldn't tear it open. Besides Pan Qian and Song Wei, Ning Cheng hadn't seen a third cultivator who could directly tear open space. Song Wei tore open the space of Graceful Star Mainland, while Pan Qian tore open the real starry sky space. The laws of space within the traceless gate were at a higher level compared to Graceful Star Mainland, and the space within it was also much more stable than Graceful Star Mainland. However, it still couldn't compare to the space within the Starry Sky Precinct. At first, Ning Cheng could only touch space, but it was still a bit difficult to tear it open. But as he continued to try, and even took out space crystals to feel the subtle changes in the laws of space, he slowly began to integrate his space-related spirit techniques. Every time he tore open a space, his fusion of space-related spirit techniques took a step further. In the beginning, Ning Cheng had to spend a lot of celestial essence and spiritual consciousness every time he tore open a space. But as he tore open one space after another, Ning Cheng could easily tear open the space around him with just a raise of his hand. This feeling made Ning Cheng feel very comfortable. It reminded him of Pan Qian tearing through space. When Pan Qian tore through space in front of him, he had also done it with ease. But now, he finally reached the point where he could tear open space without using too much energy. The space he tore open now couldn't compare to the space Pan Qian tore open. But as his cultivation continued to rise, one day, he would be able to easily tear open the space of the starry sky like Pan Qian. On that day, he wouldn't need to use any breaking boundary talismans and could easily return to any interface he wanted. Even if he wanted to go to the Devil Domain from Culmination Grand Starry Sky, he wouldn't need to control the Starry Sky Wheel to fly for many days. He could just raise his hand and tear open the void between the two and arrive in one step. If that day really came, it would mark that he was already close to the level of powerhouses like Pan Qian. Ning Cheng freely tore open any space around him, and his spiritual consciousness also began to fuse with his laws of space. Previously, his spiritual consciousness could barely pass through these spaces. But now, he could easily traverse these spaces. At this moment, Ning Cheng no longer tore open the surrounding space without a choice. He began to use his spiritual consciousness to touch the countless spaces around him and then choose one to tear open. At this point, even Ning Cheng understood that it was only a matter of time before he left this place. After another half a month, Ning Cheng even felt a vague direction appear in one of the jade strips, which made him feel even more confident. As long as he could find a direction, it meant that he was about to reach the Traceless Immortal Pond's control. As long as he reached the Traceless Immortal Pond's control, he would be able to see the people from Traceless Immortal Pond. Just when Ning Cheng planned to tear open the space according to the direction indicated in the jade strip, his spiritual consciousness suddenly sensed a rich life force coming from one of the spaces. Ning Cheng didn't even think about it before turning around and tearing open the space filled with life force. Traceless Gate contained top-grade starry sky spiritual grasses, which Ning Cheng had long heard about. It's just that he had entered Traceless Gate for many years and had never encountered a space filled with life force. Now that he encountered one, how could he miss it? When Ning Cheng landed in this space and saw the surrounding scene, he suddenly felt pleasantly surprised. This was simply a natural starry sky spiritual medicine garden. What did he see? There were dozens of starry sky grade 9 spiritual grasses, and he even saw a few stalks of radish grass with ripe fruits. He thought back to the time when he fought against Duan Gantai for a single radish grass, and now he saw dozens of radish grasses. Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't let go of these grade 9 starry sky spiritual grasses. However, before digging, his spiritual sense still swept through the space around him. What puzzled him was that this space not only contained starry sky spiritual grasses, but also cultivators and even some low-level demonic beasts. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness detected at least 3 cave mansions. These 3 cave mansions were located in the triangle of a lake, surrounding the lake. In any case, Ning Cheng wouldn't give up on these starry sky spiritual grasses just because there were cultivators living here. Although he couldn't use the radish grass, there were many people in the mysterious yellow sect who could use it. Moreover, Ning Cheng also knew that the starry sky spiritual grasses here were all wild and not artificially planted. Since they were wild things, anyone could naturally dig them up. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng decided to let 3 cultivators come here first. However, they didn't dig up all the starry sky spiritual grasses here. Ning Cheng also showed mercy and only collected a quarter of them. A quarter was more than enough for Ning Cheng. Therefore, he felt very satisfied with entering the traceless gate. Stop! A cold voice rang out in the air, and a handsome male cultivator with long hair appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Even if no one came out to stop him, Ning Cheng didn't plan to dig up any more starry sky spiritual grasses after digging up a quarter of them. After all, he was the last one to come here. Ning Cheng still had a bottom line about this. Leave the ring and get out of here. The handsome male cultivator stared at Ning Cheng with a cold gaze. A jet-black longsword circled around him. As his words came out, the murderous aura from the jet-black longsword merged with his domain and vaguely locked onto Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng frowned. He even wanted to leave his ring behind. Wasn't this too much? This male cultivator had middle-stage eternal cultivation and a condensed celestial wheel behind him. Apparently, he was an expert. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to speak, two more figures landed in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng noticed that these three people had come out of three different caves. This time, the two people who came over were a man and a woman. The male cultivator had a slightly dark complexion. Although not as handsome as the male cultivator who came first, he had a well-defined face. Moreover, his cultivation was the same as the handsome male cultivator at the middle stage eternal realm. Ning Cheng's gaze fell on the female cultivator and couldn't help but secretly applaud in his heart. What a beautiful woman! Her long black hair was tied up in a flying immortal bun, which matched with her white oval face. It made her look ethereal and refined. Her eyes looked bright and pure, but Ning Cheng could feel the vicissitudes of the world and the vicissitudes of life within them. Although it wasn't a tight dress, it could still set off her chest and let people feel that her waist was as thin as a hand. Moreover, her cultivation wasn't any weaker than the two male cultivators. They were also middle-stage eternal cultivators. When the three stood together, they looked like a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Even the positions of the three people seemed to have a tacit understanding. The woman stood in the middle, while the two men stood on the left and right. Ning Cheng had also fallen in love before, so he understood at a glance that these two male cultivators were pursuing this female cultivator. Chapter 8:22. Did you ask me to leave the ring behind? Ning Cheng's tone turned cold. He stretched out his hand, and the celestial rainbow purgatory spear appeared in it. Wait a minute. The beautiful woman in the middle suddenly spoke up. The male cultivator, who was about to start, immediately restrained his murderous aura when he heard the beautiful woman's words. It seemed that he cared a lot about this female cultivator's words. Since the other party didn't start, Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't do anything. He also didn't put away the celestial rainbow purgatory spear. The beautiful female cultivator gave Ning Cheng a starry sky cultivator's salute before speaking up slowly. This Dao friend, we indeed came here first. However, you are at fault for digging up the starry sky spirit grasses here. Ning Cheng also felt a little embarrassed. Although he knew that these starry sky spirit grasses were ownerless, the other party came here first. This female cultivator's every action and gesture brought with it a noble and untainted aura, which made people unable to feel angry. The female cultivator didn't wait for Ning Cheng to answer and spoke to the handsome male cultivator. Senior apprentice brother Zhua, these starry sky spirit grasses are indeed ownerless. Although we came here first, we didn't manage to keep them in captivity. Therefore, this Dao friend came here and dug up some of them. I believe that this Dao friend is also a reasonable person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only dug up a quarter of them. The beautiful woman's words weren't wrong. Replaced by an ordinary cultivator, few would have abided by principles like Ning Cheng. Not to mention that these starry sky spirit grasses were ownerless. Even if they had an owner, this person would have dug up all the starry sky spirit grasses in the first place. Ning Cheng made up his mind. If the other party insisted on taking these starry sky spirit grasses, he would take out some permanent essence pills. He had a sect, and the sect's disciples naturally needed some top-grade medicinal pills. If he wanted to go to the 5 grand realms in the future, he couldn't leave the sect behind. At least, he had to leave behind some inheritances. Seeing the beautiful woman looking at him again, Ning Qing didn't wait for her to speak and spoke up with cupped fists. In that case, I'm willing to take out some things to compensate you. The beautiful woman spoke up softly. These starry sky grade 9 spiritual grasses are indeed precious. But in fact, Dao Friend doesn't have much use for them. Few people in the starry sky can refine starry sky grade 9 medicinal pills. Even if there were a pill emperor who could refine starry sky grade 9 medicinal pills, Dao Friend might not find it easy to meet them. This female cultivator spoke in a very euphemistic manner. Although she said that it was difficult to meet, it meant that it would be useless for him to take away these high-grade starry sky spirit grasses. Not to mention that you couldn't find someone to help you refine pills. Even if you found such an alchemy emperor and wanted to ask him to refine pills for you, he wouldn't even bother with you. As for Ning Qing saying that he would take out something to compensate her, she did not even care about it. With Ning Cheng's cultivation, what good things could he come up with? The two people next to the beautiful woman did not speak. They could clearly see that Ning Cheng's cultivation was ordinary, at most in the life and death realm. The celestial wheels behind Ning Cheng were in disarray, and he didn't have the demeanor of a powerhouse at all. So, how could his cultivation be high? Ning Qing showed a faint smile. He himself was a starry sky grade 9 pill emperor, so why would he need someone else to help him refine pills? Besides, Grand Culmination Starry Sky's premier pill emperor Tsangtahe was also in his sect. If you don't mind, you can stay here for the time being. Senior apprentice brother Wuji was a starry sky grade 8 pill emperor. Therefore, it wouldn't take long for him to advance to starry sky grade 9. Once senior apprentice brother Wuji advanced to a tier 9 pill emperor, Dao Friend's starry sky spiritual grasses can also be turned into medicinal pills. To be honest, even Ning Qing appreciated the demeanor of this beautiful woman. The senior apprentice brother Wuji mentioned by this beautiful woman should be the middle stage eternal male cultivator who came with her. Ning Qing couldn't tell that this male cultivator was a starry sky grade 8 pill emperor. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness quickly swept through a large open space in the distance. He quickly saw that there were more than just these starry sky spiritual grasses here. From the looks of it, this senior apprentice brother Wuji had dug out most of the starry sky spiritual grasses for alchemy. This fellow had dug out so many starry sky spiritual grasses for practice, yet he barely reached the level of a starry sky grade 8 pill emperor. As a starry sky grade 9 pill emperor, Ning Qing naturally understood that with senior apprentice brother Wuji's alchemy aptitude, even if this senior apprentice brother Wuji used all the starry sky spiritual grasses here for practice, he wouldn't be able to advance to the level of a starry sky grade 9 pill emperor. Many thanks, senior apprentice sister. But I have something urgent to do and need to go back. So, I won't be staying here. Ning Qing refused without hesitation. The beautiful woman frowned slightly, and the senior apprentice brother Wuji next to her spoke up with a slightly hoarse voice. As far as I know, it's very difficult to come out of this vitality space. I wonder how this Dao Friend managed to come here. Ning Cheng saw that the beautiful female cultivator had also paid attention to this sentence and understood that this sentence was the focus of the three people's attention. Ning Cheng spoke up calmly, I have a position-indicating weapon that can help me find the way out of the traceless gate. This place is the only way out, so I came here. Ning Cheng naturally didn't have a position-indicating weapon, but he could tear through space. After the three people heard Ning Cheng's words, they all looked at each other. Then, the beautiful woman spoke up with a slightly surprised tone. Do you really have a position-indicating weapon that can help you get out of the traceless gate? Ning Cheng nodded. Yes, I can indeed get out of this place. The female cultivator's tone turned even softer. Let me introduce myself. My name is Zhai Chumen. These two senior apprentice brothers are Bianzhua and Xiong Wuji. I wonder if this friend can take us out with you? Naturally. Ning Cheng spoke up without hesitation. Even if he didn't tear through space, he could still find a way out of this place. Bianzhua was the cultivator with a handsome face, while Xiong Wuji was the male cultivator with a dark complexion and a well-defined face. Ning Qing noticed that when Zhai Chuman said that she wanted to go out, Xiong Wuji's eyes showed a hint of joy, while Bienjua's eyes showed a bit of reluctance. Most likely, they thought that once they got out, they would have few opportunities to contact Zhai Chuman. Many thanks. Zhai Chuman quickly thanked him and then added, in that case, these starry sky spirit grasses can be considered as a reward for this friend. Ning Qing naturally agreed. The three people didn't ask Ning Cheng's name, and Ning Qing also didn't say it. He understood that these three people didn't put him in their eyes. They even skipped the process of asking for his name. After the four people reached this agreement, Zhai Chuman's group of three quickly collected all the starry sky spirit grasses in this place. Seeing that the few people had finished collecting the things in the vicinity, Ning Qing took the lead and rushed out of this space filled with vitality. Zhai Chuman's group of three quickly followed behind Ning Qing. Seeing Ning Qing switch between spaces at a fast speed, Zhai Chuman's group of three couldn't help but admire him. Even if Ning Qing had a top-grade position-type weapon, he definitely wasn't a simple person to be able to switch between spaces within the traceless gate so quickly. In just half a day, Ning Qing stopped. According to the Traceless Immortal Pond's Jade Strip, this space was the exit. Why did you stop? Bienjua stared at Ning Qing and frowned. Ning Qing had not yet spoken, when two figures quickly rushed over. These were two life and death cultivators. When the two people saw Zhai Chuman's group of four, they immediately exclaimed, Sacred Lady Man! Sacred Lady Man! Ning Qing saw Zhai Chuman nod and walk up. Only then did he realize that this Zhai Chuman was the Traceless Immortal Pond's Sacred Lady. Traceless Immortal Pond, this black shop, actually had a sacred lady. What a joke! At the same time, his impression of Zhai Chuman worsened. Traceless Immortal Pond's sacred lady? How good could she be? Let's go back to the sect. Seeing the two life and death cultivators wanting to say something, Zhai Chuman waved her hand and spoke with an indifferent tone. Every move she made exuded a noble momentum. From this, one could tell that even after she lost her way in the Traceless Gate, she hadn't lost her sacred lady's temperament. Yes. The two life and death cultivators quickly led Zhai Chuman forward, while Ning Qing and the others naturally followed behind. Xiong Wuji patted Ning Cheng's shoulder and pointed to the jade strip in Ning Cheng's hand with a smile. Friend, you just mentioned a position-type weapon. Don't tell me it's this position-type jade strip? Ning Cheng felt that Xiong Wuji wasn't a bad person, but it was an intuition. He smiled and chuckled. You're right, it's my direction indicating magic treasure. You're amazing. Xiong Wuji gave Ning Cheng a thumbs up and praised him. Ning Cheng naturally knew that he was being sarcastic, but he didn't care. Bienjua gave a cold snort and didn't speak. If they had known that Ning Cheng's position-type weapon was this jade strip, the three of them would never have followed Ning Cheng out. The probability of such a thing coming out was pitifully low. Who would rely on such a thing? Even Zhai Chuman, who was walking in front, shook her head when she heard the conversation between Ning Cheng and Xiong Wuji. She actually believed that Ning Cheng had a position-type weapon and could enter and exit the Traceless Gate at will. Fortunately, this ignorant cultivator had good luck and really came out. Several people soon arrived outside a huge building. After walking in, they found a huge teleportation array inside. The two life and death cultivators respectfully led Zhai Chuman into the teleportation array before retreating. Bienjua and Xiong Wuji naturally entered the teleportation array without hesitation. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept over the teleportation array for a while and confirmed that there were no problems. Only then did he enter the teleportation array under Zhai Chuman's puzzled gaze. Ning Cheng could also set up this teleportation array now. The teleportation array activated, and the place where the four people stepped on was the platform from which they had entered the Traceless Gate. Four cultivators in the Eternal Realm, one at the early stage Eternal Realm, one at the middle stage Eternal Realm, and two at the late stage Eternal Realm. Apparently, Traceless Immortal Pond had long since heard about the return of Traceless Immortal Pond's Sacred Lady and came here in advance to welcome them. Ning Cheng recognized the early-stage Eternal Cultivator. She was the middle-aged female cultivator who had escorted him into the Traceless Gate. Ning Cheng secretly sighed at Traceless Immortal Pond's heritage. With this kind of strength, even Demon Domain's Heavenly Emperor Zhang Kongtianji would feel some fear. Welcome back to the Immortal Pond, Sacred Lady Man. The 4 Eternal Cultivators spoke up in unison. Even the 2 late-stage Eternal Cultivators showed respect to Zhai Chuman. It's you. The middle-aged female cultivator immediately recognized Ning Cheng, and her eyes showed surprise. To be honest, Ning Cheng was the first person to come out of the Traceless Gate in just a few years. In the history of the Traceless Gate, such a thing had never happened. Ning Cheng showed a slight smile. It's me. I thought it was a waste of time inside, so I came out first. Everyone goodbye. According to Traceless Immortal Pond's words, since he brought back the Traceless Immortal Pond's Sacred Lady, he should have received a reward. However, Ning Cheng was in a hurry to go back and didn't want to cause trouble. Besides, he didn't care about the reward. Seeing Ning Cheng about to step on the chain connected to the boulder platform, the middle-aged female cultivator called out without hesitation, "This Dao friend, please wait a minute." Chapter 8:23. What else do I have to wait for? I already paid 10,000 permanent essence pills to enter the Traceless Gate. Do I still have to pay permanent essence pills to come out? Ning Cheng's face sank. The middle-aged female cultivator quickly replied, "Of course not. Why would my Traceless Immortal Pond ask for permanent essence pills from our guests? Presumably, this friend also knows about it. My Traceless Immortal Pond also has a task. All those who enter the Traceless Gate and bring out our Traceless Gate's disciples will receive some permanent essence pills as a reward. Since you brought out our Traceless Immortal Pond's Sacred Lady, you have already completed this task. Naturally, we can't let you leave Traceless Immortal Pond empty-handed." Ning Cheng showed a slight smile. He didn't believe that Traceless Immortal Pond would be so kind. He asked with an indifferent tone, "I wonder how many rewards I can get for bringing back Traceless Immortal Pond's Sacred Lady? If it's too little, I'm not interested in taking it." Others might not know about Ning Cheng's wealth, but this middle-aged female cultivator naturally knew about it. Ning Cheng didn't even bat an eye when he took out 500,000 permanent essence pills to buy the jade strip. The middle-aged female cultivator wanted to speak, but Ning Cheng suddenly interrupted her. "Traceless Immortal Pond lost in the Traceless Gate. Isn't Sacred Lady Man the most respected person I brought out?" The middle-aged female cultivator paused slightly before understanding Ning Cheng's meaning. She nodded and said, "You're right. In the Traceless Gate, Sacred Lady Man is the most respected person in my Traceless Immortal Pond." Ning Cheng suddenly spoke up. "When I went in, Dao Friend said that the lowest reward for bringing out Traceless Immortal Pond's disciples is 100,000 permanent essence pills, and the highest reward is 100 million permanent essence pills. Since I brought out Sacred Lady Man, does that mean I can get a reward of 100 million permanent essence pills this time?" The middle-aged female cultivator showed a faint smile. "Dao Friend is right. You can indeed get a reward of 100 million permanent essence pills." The other 3 eternal cultivators who came to greet Zhai Chuman had calm expressions. They didn't think that the middle-aged female cultivator's words were too outrageous. Zhai Chuman looked at the middle-aged female cultivator in surprise. 100 million permanent essence pills? It was simply too terrifying. Even Xiong Wuji and Bianzhua looked at Ning Cheng in shock. 100 million permanent essence pills? How much was that? When Ning Cheng saw Zhai Chuman's expression, he understood that Zhai Chuman didn't know about Traceless Immortal Pond's black shop. It immediately improved Ning Cheng's impression of Zhai Chuman. "Then lead the way. I'll go and collect the permanent essence pills. Although I'm rich, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't be tempted by 100 million permanent essence pills." Ning Cheng stopped and decided to reveal his wealth. Since they were going to fight, there was no need to be polite. Ning Cheng felt sure that this middle-aged female cultivator wouldn't take the initiative to give him 100 million permanent essence pills. This clearly indicated that she wanted to take action against him. If someone offended him, then Ning Cheng would never be a nice gentleman who would try to keep the peace. If Traceless Immortal Pond really kept its promise and took out so many permanent essence pills, he would act as if nothing had happened. Since Traceless Immortal Pond dared to make a move against him, destroying Traceless Immortal Pond would also create some benefits for the Starry Skies cultivators and himself. Following the middle-aged female cultivator leading the way, they once again walked past the chain, and nothing unexpected happened along the way. Ningqing guessed that since Traceless Immortal Pond's sacred lady didn't know about it, Traceless Immortal Pond's shady business had to be hidden from the sacred lady. Sacred Lady Man, Sect Master hasn't come out of seclusion yet. You can go to the Sacred Lady Hall first. We'll arrange for Dao Friend Xiong and Dao Friend Bian. After walking through the chain, the middle-aged female cultivator immediately gave a respectful bow to Zhai Chuman. A late-stage eternal cultivator echoed, Junior Apprentice Sister Qiansong is right. Sacred Lady Man's return is a major event for our Traceless Immortal Pond. Our sect will hold a return ceremony to celebrate Sacred Lady Man's advancement to the Eternal Realm. Secondly, to celebrate Sacred Lady Man's return to the sect. When Ningqing heard this, he realized that Zhai Chuman wasn't an eternal cultivator when she entered the Traceless Gate. But now, Zhai Chuman was at the middle stage Eternal Realm. Ningqing didn't know how long she had stayed in the Traceless Gate. He guessed that she had obtained a lot of treasures. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been easy to cultivate to the Eternal Realm in the Traceless Gate. Zhai Chuman also felt that something was wrong. But because Ningqing wasn't mentioned, she looked at Ningqing in doubt. Just as she was about to speak, the middle-aged female cultivator spoke up. This Dao friend brought Sacred Lady Man out of the Traceless Gate. We have to thank him. I'll take care of these things. Sacred Lady Man, you don't have to worry about it. Zhai Chuman felt that something was wrong. Regardless of whether saving her was a trivial matter or not, a reward of 100 million permanent essence pills wasn't a trivial matter. This kind of thing, only an elder casually handled it? Didn't he need to face the entire sect's disciples in the sect's meeting? Elder Qiansong, I think I should thank him myself for this matter. After Zhai Chuman spoke to the middle-aged female cultivator, she deliberately walked up to Ningqing and asked, Dao friend brought the three of us out of the Traceless Gate. I don't know how to address this Dao friend. If Ningqing had come and left without a reward of 100 million permanent essence pills, Zhai Chuman might not have asked for Ningqing's name. After all, Ningqing and she had a deal. After everyone came out, they didn't owe each other anything. But now that there was a reward of 100 million permanent essence pills, it made Zhai Chuman feel a little puzzled. No matter how big the reward was, it shouldn't be this many permanent essence pills. What made her even more puzzled was that this reward of so many permanent essence pills could be casually handled by an elder. It felt a little too outrageous. Ningqing showed a slight smile. My name is Ningqing. The middle-aged female cultivator's face showed some embarrassment. Give Ningqing 100 million permanent essence pills? How could that be possible? Moreover, from now on, Ningqing couldn't leave their sight. The late-stage eternal cultivator, who had previously said that he wanted to hold a celebration, quickly spoke up, Sacred Lady Man, Junior Apprentice Sister Qiansong can handle these things. You should take a break first. Sect Master might come out of seclusion in a while. We have to focus on important matters. Zhai Chuman nodded, Okay, Elder Juyang. After that, she turned to Ningqing and said, Dao friend Ning, you go first. I'll come and say goodbye to you later. When Ningqing heard Zhai Chuman's words, he immediately understood that Zhai Chuman had some doubts. She said that she would come and see him off later, which meant that she meant it. Seeing that Sacred Lady Man finally agreed to leave, the middle-aged female cultivator breathed a sigh of relief and took Ningqing away with the other middle-stage eternal cultivator. Brother Ning, wait. This time, it was Xiong Wuji who stopped Ningqing. Seeing everyone looking at him, Xiong Wuji smiled and said to Zhai Chuman, Junior Apprentice Sister Chuman, it's all thanks to Brother Ningqing that we could come out this time. I think Brother Ningqing is a good person and want to talk to him more. In addition, I won't be attending Junior Apprentice Sister Chuman's celebration. When Brother Ningqing leaves, I will also leave with Brother Ningqing. Bienge was sneered and said, Brother Xiong, I don't think you want to go with Ningqing because he wants the reward of 100 million permanent essence pills, right? Xiong Wuji showed a smile. If you say so, then so be it. Ningqing knew that Xiong Wuji didn't come with him for the reward of 100 million permanent essence pills. Xiong Wuji most likely wanted to go with him because he felt that pursuing Zhai Chuman wouldn't yield any results. Zhai Chuman naturally understood Xiong Wuji's temperament and said with a smile, "All right, then senior apprentice brother Wuji will go with Dao friend Ning first. After I greet master and sect master, I will come and say goodbye to you." Xiong Wuji wasn't from Traceless Immortal Pond. Moreover, Zhai Chuman had also made it clear that Traceless Immortal Pond's people couldn't stop Xiong Wuji from going with Ning Cheng. Otherwise, it would be too obvious. Ning Cheng and Xiong Wuji followed the two eternal cultivators to a luxurious-looking reception hall. As a top-notch Starry Sky Array Emperor, Ning Cheng could tell that it was a combination of many top-grade entrapment and killing formations the moment he entered the reception hall. After the two eternal-level cultivators brought Ning Cheng, they immediately left. Xiong Wuji casually swept out with his spiritual consciousness before speaking to Ning Cheng with a smile. "Brother Ning, your cultivation isn't that high. Yet, you dared to break into the Traceless Gate. It really surprised me." It was normal for the reception hall to have many array formations. After all, Traceless Immortal Pond was also a major sect. It would have been strange if it didn't have any array formations. Ning Cheng smiled. "Dao friend Wuji, your cultivation isn't much higher than mine. If you can break through, why can't I?" Xiong Wuji didn't get angry. Instead, he nodded. "That's true. When I entered the Traceless Gate, I was only at the middle stage life and death realm, which isn't much higher than you. But brother Ning Cheng, I treat you as a friend, yet you call me Dao friend. It's a bit like an outsider." He thought that Ning Cheng was referring to his cultivation when he first entered the Traceless Gate. At that time, he was indeed in the life and death realm. A cultivator in the life and death realm who entered the Traceless Gate couldn't be considered a powerhouse. Let's not talk about being an outsider. Dao friend Wuji and I haven't known each other for a long time, and we don't seem to be friends. I don't think Dao friend Wuji should be sitting here with me right now. Instead, you should be trying to please Sacred Lady Man. Ning Cheng spoke up casually. Xiong Wuji sighed and said, "I already knew that it wouldn't work out. Only Bianzhuo would stay here with such infatuation. Let's not talk about this. Brother Ning Cheng, when you dug out a quarter of the Starry Sky spiritual grasses, I knew that you were a worthy friend. If it were me, I would have dug out at least half of them. Don't look at Bianzhuo's reprimanding you at that time. If it were him, I'm sure he would have dug out those Starry Sky spiritual grasses. I guess only Junior Apprentice Sister Man would have calmed down and not touched those Starry Sky spiritual grasses." Ning Cheng agreed with Xiong Wuji's words. "You're right. If you and Sacred Lady Man hadn't come out, I would have already taught him a lesson." Xiong Wuji naturally thought that Ning Cheng was bragging. He smiled again. "The next time you want to teach Bianzhuo a lesson, I will help you. In fact, Bianzhuo is a good person. He has a heavy murderous heart and is also very arrogant. However, he isn't a despicable person. This is also the reason why I can barely be his neighbor. Of course, he also generously gave me a lot of Starry Sky spiritual grasses for alchemy. That's another reason." As the two chatted, the middle-aged female cultivator named Qian Song walked in again and said to Xiong Wuji, "Dao friend Xiong, Sacred Lady Man invites you over." When Xiong Wuji heard Zhai Chuman calling him over, he immediately stood up and said to Ning Cheng, "Brother Ning, I'll go see Sacred Lady Man first. I'll talk to you when I come back." Ning Cheng stood up and sent Xiong Wuji out. He estimated that Xiong Wuji wouldn't be in much danger. He had stayed in the Traceless Gate to cultivate for a long time. Even if he had some cultivation resources, he would have already used them up. Plus, he was Zhai Chuman's friend. Therefore, Traceless Immortal Pond would have to give him some face. Xiong Wuji had just left when a middle-stage Eternal Cultivator walked in. When he came in, he activated the restrictions around the guest hall. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.